Ever since I found out I was just a fake young master, all my classmates were buzzing. They weren't really mocking me. They were just thrilled to finally see what a real poor person actually looked like in the flesh. Someone who might actually need a poverty aid quota. My wealthy adopted parents weren't completely heartless snobs who would just kick me out to the curb, even facing the cold sneers of the real young master. No one paid him much attention. Instead, they asked me what my plans were. Now that your biological son is back, I told them I will go find my real parents too. I took a slow sip of my hot tea. They knew they had raised me well. I always handled things smoothly and efficiently, but sadly, we shared no blood. No matter how perfect you are, it never quite matches up to the bond of a real biological child. Mu Yao naturally did not even try to stop me. The Mu family will give you 3 million. Your future is up to you now, he said. I will remember your kindness, I replied softly. Mu Yao then answered me very coldly. Pack up, Lao Lu will drive you. I set down my teacup, stood up and headed out. Just as I reached the landing of the stairs to leave, I heard Mu Xuan's voice echoing from right behind me. Your real family is dead broke, you know, he sneered. If you drag too much stuff there, they won't even have room for it. Those expensive luxury items are totally useless to you now. For your very first meeting, try not to leave a terrible impression. I just stared right at his smug face. Whatever I am not taking, just throw it all away. Mu Xuan froze, completely stunned. Throw them away? But those are all highly exclusive, limited edition designer brands. Even the basic ones cost a fortune. That is literally just burning money. I found his entire meltdown hilarious. I walked straight upstairs, grabbed a small backpack, and threw in absolutely nothing but my ID and my phone. I left the rest behind. I walked out of the wealthy Mu family estate without hesitating. The driver dropped me off at a rundown apartment block. I looked up to check the house number. I made sure I had the right address, then knocked on the rusted iron door. Seeing the tired face looking back at me, I knew, for sure, this was my biological mother. I offered a gentle smile. I am your son. Yi Mu was absolutely stunned hearing that word. We just stood there, staring at each other through the rusty iron gate. I kept my tone soft and polite. Do you think I could come inside so we can talk? Ye Mu finally snapped out of her shock. She hurriedly unlocked the iron gate and ushered me inside the tiny house. She poured me a simple glass of hot water. Her face was tight with visible anxiety as she handed it over. I took it, sipped it slowly, and explained the entire hospital mix-up in plain terms. Mu Xuan was the true heir of the wealthy family, and I was their actual son. My birth parents had never even considered this crazy possibility. But seeing their polished, well-raised biological son sitting right in their living room, they looked completely overwhelmed. I had already done my research on the Yi family before coming, so I roughly knew the basic setup of everyone living here. Do you want to ask me anything? I asked. Honestly, it felt less like a warm family reunion and more like a tense business meeting. Yi Mu looked at me nervously and asked, "What would you like to eat? Is there anything special?" She stammered. A soft, genuine smile crossed my lips. I don't need anything fancy. Yi Mu stood up quickly, glancing over at my father Yi Fu. I will head to the market. You call the girls right now and tell them to hurry home. Soon after, I heard the rusty gate rattle open. I stood up, walked out to the main room, and finally saw my biological sisters. My polite smile carried a trace of real warmth. I am Mu Chen, I said. Hearing my calm, deep voice, Ye Shiwei shifted slightly. She stared into my eyes with sheer surprise. You really do not mind that our family is poor? I have no problem with it, I replied, and Ye Shiwei finally relaxed a bit. Dad already explained everything to me. This is our youngest sister, Ji. Just then, my mother returned from the market and rushed into the kitchen. It almost felt like she was avoiding me. My father and I squeezed onto the tiny sofa, while my 3 sisters sat cross-legged on the bare floor. The apartment felt incredibly cramped. Yi Fu took a long, heavy breath before speaking. You can see our situation. We are all crammed into less than 60 square meters here. I will rent a separate room for you outside, and I will send you living expenses every single month. I looked right at the exhausted man. My expression stayed totally calm. Are you saying I am not welcome to live here in this house? I asked. He panicked and quickly waved his hands. No, not at all. I am just worried you would hate living in such terrible conditions. Seeing his reaction, my mood instantly improved. If you guys don't mind, I would actually prefer to stay here with my family. Yi Shiwei quickly suggested replacing my tiny bed with a bigger one. I told her the guest room sofa was completely fine. I figured I would just adjust the room's layout a bit later. Hearing she might get a new study table out of the swap, little Jai literally jumped for joy. Just then, my mother carried out a stack of bowls from the kitchen. Dinner is ready, she announced. The tiny table held fragrant fish soup and a plate of large boiled prawns. Little Ji's eyes lit up immediately. It was obviously her absolute favorite meal. She usually only got to eat seafood on holidays. Coming from a world of luxury banquets, I did not think much of the simple spread, but I could easily see how hard my real family was trying to impress me tonight. The awkward tension finally dissolved. Since I packed nothing but cash, I figured I should buy some fresh clothes nearby. Seeing my little sister watching me, I had an idea. Ji eagerly volunteered to show me around. so I grabbed her tiny hand, and we headed out. I used to get custom fittings in luxury VIP suites, so digging through racks myself was definitely a brand new experience. I quickly picked out 3 or 4 cheap casual sets and grabbed a pair of plain running shoes. Walking back home hand in hand, we passed a street vendor selling those bright red candied hawthorn sticks on a skewer. I caught her secretly staring longingly at the glass display case before sensibly forcing herself to look away. Smiling, I immediately bought the biggest strawberry one just for her. Clutching the sweet snack in her tiny hands, her entire face lit up with pure joy. She giggled, held the stick high up, and pushed it toward me. "Here, brother, take a bite." I froze for a second, then gently ruffled my little sister's messy hair. "Brother doesn't really eat sweets," I lied softly. Jai carefully counted the juicy strawberries on the wooden stick. "Then me, older sister, second sister, mom and dad can all have exactly one," I burst out laughing. Grabbing her little hand again, we walked back to our rundown apartment complex. From a distance, I spotted my second sister Yi Jixi digging through a damp cardboard box out front. She carefully pulled out an old, stuffed doll. Hearing my heavy footsteps approach, Yi Jixi panicked and quickly shoved the dirty doll behind her back as I walked up. My expression stayed totally calm. "You do not need to hide it." "I already saw," I said softly. She ducked her head, looking exactly like a kid caught red-handed. Slowly, she brought the doll back out. Mu Xuan used to love this toy so much. He would hug it to sleep every single night. I never imagined he would abandon this too, I sighed. This is not the only thing he threw away. My harsh truth pierced right through her. Only when she finally felt that sharp sting of betrayal would she finally wake up and see the truth. I watched her silently. "If you want to keep it, just take it," I offered. Instead, she chucked the doll straight back into the trash box. She flashed me a very bitter, knowing smile. Later that humid summer night, a tiny desk fan rattled loudly as it spun in my room. Through the incredibly thin, cheap windows, I could hear the loud neighbors shouting next door. Sometime right around midnight, I woke up to muffled voices filtering through my door. It was Ye Shiwei whispering with my parents. "Mu Chen is definitely not used to that terrible bed," she murmured. I heard him tossing and turning all night long. "Let's go buy a decent mattress for him. My college scholarship hits next week. I will cover the cost." Their voices were incredibly soft, but I heard every single word crystal clear in the dark room. By the time I finally got dressed and stepped out the next morning, Yi, Shiwei, and my father were already gone. "Where did Dad and my sister go?" I asked. Yimu handed me a fresh cup of hot water. "She headed off to campus early. Your father's went to start his ride-hailing shifts for the day, and he dropping her off at the station on the way. The early morning train tickets are much cheaper." Yi Shiwei was truly the kind of person who pinched every penny till it bled just to save money. Yet, terrified that I couldn't sleep comfortably in poverty, she did not hesitate to blow her own hard-earned scholarship money on a soft mattress for me. Deep inside my chest, I felt a very strange, warm sensation. Yi Jixi had already rushed off to her morning, part-time job. Jai was out playing in the alley, and my mother soon left to do piecework at a local factory. I was the only one left. I got up and opened the door. Su Minyu hurried in with her tools. "Young master, I have not even had breakfast yet." I simply walked her around the room to discuss my renovation needs. I explained my requirements. Su Minyu suddenly frowned, looking completely overwhelmed. "Your last mattress alone cost more than 20,000, she said. "And now you expect me to completely renovate this entire house on a budget of just 20,000? I stood leaning against the doorframe with my arms crossed. "Why would I bother you with an easy job?" I asked. After she finished measuring the entire house, a rough floor plan had already started forming inside her head. We walked back to the living room and sat down. Su Minyu and I began scrolling through the tablet. "Have you truly decided to stay here?" she asked. "Are you really that tired of eating all those luxurious delicacies?" I gave her a very meaningful smile in return. "Do you know why the Yi family actually went bankrupt back then?" I asked. "I heard some rumors," she replied. "They say it happened right when Yi Shu was driving. He ended up crashing into the boyfriend of the Mu Mu family's third young lady. So, she completely bankrupted the Yi family in revenge. Obviously everyone believes that Crash was the real reason they lost everything. But I knew Yi Shu was not the real reason for their bankruptcy." Suddenly, I heard noises outside the door. Yi Fu rushed inside in a panic. "Wait, did you not go out to take ride-hailing orders today?" "I forgot to grab my phone charger," he said. Then his eyes locked onto the person standing right next to me. The girl looked very familiar to him, so I took the opportunity to introduce her immediately. "This is my friend Su Minyu." I invited her over to check the house layout. Ye Fu was completely speechless. He had definitely heard her name before. She was incredibly famous on a national level as a highly talented and respected designer who had already won countless awards at such a young age. People paid absolute fortunes just to hire her, but she usually ignored them completely. "Anyway, I am not going to interrupt your work any further. I will just grab my data cable and head right back out." Yi Fu was terrified of disturbing a genius like Su Minyu. He grabbed his cable and practically bolted out the door. The two of them did not speak again. Su Minyu eventually left to draft the new design plans. I gathered all my documents and headed straight to the local handicraft workshop. 7 or 8 women were busy inside, quietly sticking labels. They were chatting away while working. I stood by the door and greeted them politely. "Mom, I have some errands to run outside today," I announced. "I will not be having lunch at home." Mother Yi smiled at me kindly. "Just remember to come home early tonight," she said. Later, I walked through the crowded vegetable market intersection. A sleek black McLaren was parked right by the street. I opened the back door and slid right in. The girl sitting next to me had a very gentle expression. Ever since she spotted me from a distance, she had not taken her eyes off me. "You are so heartless, hiding something this big until now," she said. I smirked slightly. "Were you not living abroad before this? Telling you earlier would have been completely useless." Lu Ruyan gave me a very meaningful look. "Oh, so you are blaming me for not being by your side? Are you actually mad at me?" she teased. I just laughed, completely speechless. "Where did you even learn to talk like such a boss? Young master, you completely ignored me for so long." I had to entertain myself somehow. I gently tapped her palm with my finger. "Stop joking around," she said. "Are you really going to adjust to living with the Ye family?" "Not at all. I honestly could not sleep well last night," I admitted. I leaned against Lu Ruan's shoulder. Hearing her soft and gentle voice made my entire body relax instantly. My voice started fading out. I already showed Su Minyu the floor plan. "The house renovations can begin tomorrow." "You work fast as always," she whispered. "But if you really are struggling to sleep well at that place, then just come stay with me tonight." When I did not answer, she gently tilted her head down and looked at my face. She realized I was already fast asleep. Feeling entirely helpless, she simply smiled and told the driver to turn up the heat. A sweet orange fragrance slowly filled the car. That scent always brought me an overwhelming sense of peace. After leaning heavily against Lu Ruyan's shoulder for 2 solid hours, I woke up. The car was already parked outside the service hall. She gently held my hand, patiently waiting for me to fully wake up before stepping inside the building right alongside me. Lu Ruyan efficiently handled the entire property registration transfer herself. Once all the tedious paperwork was finally completed without a single issue, my personal household registration data officially transferred over to the Yi family. It was now firmly printed on Yifu's household register. Later, while I was slicing a steak at a high-end restaurant, my phone buzzed with a text message. "The Mu family just wired 3 million straight into my account. They really think 3 million is enough to buy your silence," Lu Ruyan said, slicing her steak. A cold, mocking laugh edged her voice. "Honestly, it makes sense. I was never after their money anyway. By accepting this hush money, the Mu family will stop worrying about me spreading rumors. And I will not have to waste my energy keeping them out of my business anymore. Now everyone can just relax." Lu Ruyan drove me all the way back. The car stopped at that same vegetable market intersection again. She reached out and gently stroked my hair. Her deep eyes held so much tenderness, anyone could easily drown in them. I eventually turned around and walked straight into the bustling vegetable market. Only then did she finally tell her driver to leave. As I headed back into the rundown residential area, Yi Ji-shi was also just getting off from work. I quickly washed my hands and took my seat at the dining table. I had never tasted this specific kind of pickled fish before. The slices of fish were incredibly soft and tender. The pickled vegetables tasted delightfully refreshing. That sour, spicy, and perfectly fragrant flavor completely spiked my appetite. Honestly, this was the most satisfying meal I had eaten in 17 years. I drank 2 entire bowls of the delicious fish soup. A bright smile instantly bloomed across Mother Yi's face. "I will cook even more new dishes tomorrow," she promised. "I called Shanghua today. If you want, you can easily take the spot Mushu's one just left empty." Yi Ji-shi brought this up very carefully. She was terrified that her specific wording or mentioning his name might anger me. When the topic of transferring schools came up, I lowered my gaze and held back my tears. "Our family's financial situation simply cannot support you continuing your education at Shangjia," she explained gently. "Your parents feel incredibly ashamed." I completely failed to understand the Yi family's mindset. They were literally apologizing to me just for being poor. They felt terrible that the house was so cramped, and they felt guilty about the Elite Academy's heavy expenses. But what was there to apologize for? If you want something, you have to earn it yourself. Relying on other people means you will never actually control your own destiny. You cannot change your fate by begging, even if you are begging your own family. That was a harsh lesson the Mu Fu family taught me. "Thank you for worrying about my transfer, second sister, but I am going to stay at Shanghua." Before Mother Yi could voice her panic, I already knew exactly what she was thinking. I gently raised my hand to stop her from interrupting me. The prestigious Shanghua Middle School completely waives the tuition fees for the top-ranked student in the entire grade. You really do not need to feel bad for me. Whatever I need, I will secure it on my own. These are my own ambitions, and you should not carry the heavy burden for them. Hearing this, Mother Yi's eyes instantly turned bright red. Shimmering tears welled up, but she desperately held them back, completely refusing to let a single tear drop. Instead, she offered a profoundly satisfied smile. Yi Jishi quickly composed herself and smiled softly too. If you genuinely have the means to stay at Shenghua, we will fully support your decision. Shenghua is not too far away from the city #1 middle school. Later on, second sister will come to pick you up after classes. Right after we finished eating dinner, Ye Jishi paced in and out of the room to quickly wash the dishes. Meanwhile, I retreated to my own bedroom to revise my homework. The very next morning, right after finishing breakfast, the entire family stepped outside, busy getting ready to head off for work and school. Last night, I had secretly called Lu Ruyan to borrow one of her personal drivers for just a little while. By now, the car was already waiting at the intersection. After waving a quick goodbye to Mother Yi, all three of us siblings walked toward the bend in the road. As we finally climbed into the vehicle, I carefully examined the car. I glanced over at the Toyota staff, waiting by the ride they were about to take. I had specifically asked Lu Ruyan to send over the cheapest car available. Who could have predicted she would send the latest Alphard? For her, I guess this truly was the cheap option. Cheap for her, maybe. But compared to the Yi family's beat-up, second-hand clunker, this luxury ride was insanely expensive. Is this your friend's car? Yi Jixi asked, looking completely stunned by the whole situation. Even after leaving, you can call a ride whenever you want? Are you still the Mu family's young master or what? My expression stayed completely calm. I didn't panic at all. I knew this was just Lu Ruyan's over-the-top way of helping. It was just a forced arrangement. Yi Jixi sat quietly in the back seat. Second sister, send over the address for your part-time job. She suddenly snapped out of it and remembered. Up front, the driver smoothly got things ready. The engine started. I pulled out my phone and shot Lu Ruyan a message on WeChat. Did you just buy this car today? She replied. Bought it a week ago. The trip takes over an hour. I figured you might get uncomfortable. Sitting that long is rough, and honestly, it comes in handy for my own small errands anyway. I stared at the screen and decided to just drop it. I did not say another word, even though I knew she bought this luxury van entirely for me. After dropping Yi Jixi off at the Westin restaurant, our ride merged smoothly back onto the road. We headed straight toward Shenghua Middle School. Later that evening, when I finally walked back home, dinner was already waiting on the table. The whole family sat around the dining table, deep in conversation. The Yi family had been in total shock lately. First, it was the internationally famous designer, Sumin Yu. She had shown up completely on her own to rent their place. They had just accepted me back as their son. Returning to this poor household, I honestly did not care about the sudden shifts in pride or total humiliation. That was because my confidence never relied on the Mumyu family wealth anyway. It came entirely from my own inner strength. Once we finished dinner, I grabbed a quick shower and just completely crashed. I went to sleep. Out in the living room, only my parents stayed awake. Mom rested her chin in her hand, thinking for a time before her eyes locked in on a firm decision. We really cannot underestimate Mu Chen's connections, she said. We need to make one more real attempt before we just fade away completely. Dad nodded, fully agreeing with her late-night realization. Ever since Mu Chen came back home, I have been thinking a lot these past 2 days, he replied. If we want to give this family a good life, we absolutely cannot settle for our current miserable situation. Ultimately, we need to launch our own business again. Mom let out a heavy breath, her face lined with deep anxiety. But starting a startup right now is not exactly easy. Dad reached over, firmly grabbing his wife's shoulders. His voice sounded incredibly strong and resolved. If we built a success story once, we can definitely do it a second time. For now, we will gather market intelligence. A solid calculated start will be way safer than just jumping in blind. The next morning, Dad left early to drop my little sister off. Shenghua, where I was currently studying, was a top private school, and right across the main street was where Ye Jishi went to class. We decided to just ride the local bus to campus together. The bus stop was not too far from our neighborhood blocks. When we climbed aboard, I noticed there were actually still plenty of empty seats available for us. Yi Jixi pulled out her card and swiped it twice to cover my fare. She guided me toward an empty seat near the back. I could not stop staring at the transit card hanging from her backpack zipper. Honestly, it was my very first time riding a public city bus. And this was the first time I had ever seen a scan card like that. It looked incredibly convenient. Where did you get that card? I asked. I kind of want to get one for my own bag. Yi Jixi stayed perfectly quiet for a few seconds. Then she unclipped the transit pass and dropped it right into my hand. You have to visit the service center to register one. Just take mine for now. Plus, you can just scan a QR code on your phone to pay anyway. She flashed a remarkably gentle smile. Seeing how fascinated I was by this simple piece of plastic, she had just handed it right over to me. I carefully clipped the card onto my own backpack. Gradually, the vehicle started filling up. At this hour, besides the usual students and office commuters, a ton of elderly folks were rushing to the morning market for cheap eggs. It got packed incredibly fast. The sheer number of bodies turned the cabin into a crowded mess. The air completely stopped flowing, replaced by a thick, awful stench of morning sweat. The old Mu Chen would have absolutely hated that filthy smell. I always used to avoid rubbing shoulders with random crowds like the plague. Sitting right beside me, Ye Jixi kept glancing over at my pale complexion, but I just sat there quietly against the dirty window glass, totally relaxed. The gentle morning breeze outside kept brushing through my hair. My bright eyes were scanning the passing streets with total curiosity. Yi Jiqi probably realized that her supposedly mature little brother was honestly just seeing the real world today. I had a softer side she had never noticed. Public transit drivers never wasted time, making sure no students ended up late for class. It only took us 40 minutes flat to reach the main school stop. The stop dropped us right at the gates. Yi Jixi insisted on walking me all the way to my entrance herself. We had plenty of time, so we just strolled. Along the path, dozens of sleek luxury cars sped by. They zoomed right past me. Every now and then, someone would roll down their tinted window and yell a loud greeting. Yi Jixi immediately figured it out. I actually had a pretty solid reputation on campus. She had previously been terrified that students would discover my real background, isolate me entirely, and make my life a living hell. We finally walked right up to the front arches of Shenghua Middle School. Yi Jixi felt a bit too awkward to step any further inside. "I will come grab you this afternoon when classes wrap up," she promised. Seeing her hesitate like that, I just shot her a warm smile and nodded. Suddenly, a tall guy came sprinting right at us. I actually stumbled backward from his insanely aggressive bear hug. Lin Jiajun grabbed my shoulders in a tight grip, but his eyes were completely glued to my sister standing nearby. I could not stop myself from coughing loudly just to snap him out of it. Lin Jiajun looked entirely confused for a second before realizing she was the Yi family's second daughter. He instantly stood straight at total attention. He rapidly smoothed out his jacket. "I am Mu Chen's classmate Lin Jiajun, and as of today his personal bodyguard." I tilted my head in total disbelief. "Wait, since when did you suddenly become a security detail?" I asked. Lin Jiajun leaned right into my ear and whispered quietly. "Madame Liu personally gave the order. She was seriously worried that people would start bullying you, now that you are just the fake young master around here." After whispering that, he instantly straightened back up and threw a heavy arm around my shoulder. He flashed Yi Jixi a charming smile to assure her. "Second sister, please do not worry about a single thing at all. I am literally a Taekwondo black belt. Nobody is touching a single hair on Mu Chen's head." Yi Jixi stared at the aggressively cheerful glowing guy standing right in front of her. A warm, genuinely relieved smile crossed her face. "Thank you so much. Have a great day, Mu Chen." Lin Jiajun looked like he had just witnessed a total miracle. Blushing bright red, he frantically waved his hand. "Second sister, hurry back to your own campus now." Watching her silhouette disappear down the busy street, Lin Jiajun was still completely mesmerized. "Does your second sister have a boyfriend? Would you be mad if I eventually became your brother-in-law?" I just stared at him. I let out a massive sigh. "Did you forget you already have an actual fiancé? Do you want my sister to be the other woman?" Hearing the cold truth, Lin Jiajun instantly stared up at the sky and screamed out. I glanced down at the ridiculously expensive watch shining on my wrist. The morning warning bell was ringing in exactly 15 minutes. I refused it to be late because of his drama. I picked up my pace toward the classroom wing. Jiajun scrambled to catch up with me. "I heard the Yi family went totally bankrupt, and they are drowning in massive debt. Apparently, they relocated to some broken-down residential block in the city. Can you really survive in a miserable place like that? How about I just hand over my smaller villa? I will throw in a full-time time driver and a maid too." I rolled my eyes. "If I needed rescuing, you would definitely not be first in line." As soon as Lin Jiajun heard my rejection, he looked incredibly offended. "If Madame Liu can throw money around, why can't I? I am literally your best brother in the entire world." He stubbornly grabbed onto my arm. He practically glued himself to my side. I was completely helpless, but I also wanted to laugh out loud. Since when did these rich kids become poverty relief workers? The second something goes wrong, they just start throwing luxury cars, massive villas, drivers, and nannies at me. It was like they genuinely thought leaving the Mu family made me utterly miserable. Chatting away, the two of us finally reached our morning lecture hall. The very second we stepped straight through the classroom door, the rowdy classroom, instantly went dead silent. Every single person was staring right at me in absolute shock. Had somebody messed up my face, looking at me like they'd just seen a ghost? They honestly scared the life out of me. Hearing the joke, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and burst into laughter. Which plastic surgery hospital would even dare touch your perfect face? That crazy rumor couldn't possibly be true, right? It really seemed like all of them already knew the truth anyway. I quietly walked back to my desk and sat down. Seeing me, Shen Mingxi quickly pulled his chair closer. He leaned in and whispered in a low voice, "You know, inside our elite circle, rumors always spread extremely fast. Look, I still have an empty luxury apartment in my name. It has to be way better than wherever you're staying now. Right? Just use it for the time being." But right before I could even reject the offer, Lin Jiajun suddenly smacked the back of his head. Hey, he didn't even accept my luxury villa. Shen Mingxi just pursed his lips. He knew better than to argue with a guy who could actually fight. The whole crowd of students kept loudly joking around and messing around. They didn't even notice when our strict class teacher, Zhou Xiamei, finally walked in. What top-secret national affairs are you all debating so passionately? The entire floor complains that your specific classroom is always making the absolute most noise. Seeing the teacher's furious expression, everyone instantly scattered back to their seats in dead silence. Nobody even dared to breathe out loud. This was an elite private prep school, completely filled with kids from incredibly wealthy and powerful families. But honestly, they weren't much different from normal high schoolers. They still feared our strict teachers just as much and were just as terrified of getting punished. Outsiders always assume that students at elite prep schools just partied and messed around all day long. But the brutal truth was that our daily academic workload was insane. Besides standard college prep subjects, we also had to study economics, management, and coding. Shenghuahai's founder was a major government official, so he remained incredibly strict regarding student behavior and discipline. Any disrespect toward a teacher meant severe punishment. It wasn't just the student catching heat either. Their family's entire corporate business could actually face serious consequences. I watched the room tension shift as I really don't want to argue with you today. In this crucial final year, act like mature adults and don't cause any unnecessary trouble, understand? The entire class shouted in unison, yes, loud and clear. We have a brand new transfer student joining our class today. Please welcome your new classmate, Mu Xuan. Everyone's expressions instantly turned super weird. We all obediently shifted our gaze directly towards the doorway. Lin Jiajun immediately shot me a knowing wink. I just flashed a careless smile, a totally unreadable expression, like I was watching some entertaining theater. After days of high-intensity etiquette training, Mu Xuan finally managed to fake a decent rich kid aura. He flashed what he thought was a flawless, charming smile and slowly introduced himself. I'm Mu Xuan. Back in childhood, a terrible hospital mistake got me completely mixed up, but I've finally reunited with my biological parents. I genuinely hope we can all get along well during this coming school year. Mu Xuan was wearing a custom-tailored designer suit, trying desperately to present himself as polite and sophisticated. If we were back at his old public high school, he probably could have easily relied on his brand new status as the Mu family heir to gain endless praise and popularity. But unfortunately for him, this was Shenghua High, a place absolutely crawling with hidden elite talents. His cheap little social tricks absolutely wouldn't work in a room like this whatsoever. The second he finished speaking, awkward dead silence completely filled our classroom. Shen Mingxi was already annoyed by his arrogant, punchable face. He casually leaned back and ruthlessly mocked him. Wow, the Mu family's real biological heir sure is built different. The very second he crawled back to his wealthy ancestors, he ruthlessly kicked Mu Chen right onto the streets. Hearing that raw truth, Mu Xuan's eyes immediately started twitching. Falling back on his favorite habit, he instantly played the sad, innocent victim card. He slowly lowered his gaze, acting like he was deeply conflicted. I honestly thought that since his foster parents raised him for 17 long years, he wouldn't just abandon them. I never imagined he'd demand $3 million from my dad and walk out without even looking back once. I really don't understand how a so-called brother could be so incredibly cold-blooded. Honestly, how can you be that heartless? A furious shout violently shattered the quiet classroom tension. Startled by the sudden noise, Mu Xuan nervously snapped his head around, and he immediately spotted Lin Jiajun glaring daggers at him in pure rage. Right beside him, I just sat there smiling completely undisturbed. Our strict class teacher, Zhou Xuemei, furiously knitted her brows together. She glared sharply at Lin Jiajun, who had aggressively slammed his hands on the desk. Sit down silently. Mu Xuan quickly bit his lip to hide a smirk, gripping the edge of his expensive blazer, trying his best to look like he had just suffered some horrible tragic insult. My foster family is struggling financially. Given this massive shift in his lifestyle, it's completely normal that my brother hates me. Zhou Xuemei didn't buy Mu Xuan's pathetic sob story. This prep school ran on pure discipline, and she strictly controlled student behavior. Everyone sitting in this room was destined to become elite industry titans. Naturally, our high school teachers weren't fools either. Zhou Xuemei saw right through Mu Xuan's pathetic manipulation tactics. She just didn't feel like publicly destroying his ego. Let me remind you all, Shenghua High is not your personal playground. Oh, and wear the actual school uniform tomorrow. Instantly quiet, mocking laughter echoed across the room. Mu Xuan flushed bright red in pure embarrassment. He quickly nodded and scurried off the podium, desperately hunting for an empty desk. The classroom erupted into quiet murmurs as everyone gossiped relentlessly. Mu Xuan glanced around nervously while my classmates casually debated corporate real estate investments. He couldn't grasp a single word of it, leaving him looking restless and completely out of his depth. Finally, his desperate eyes scanned the bustling crowd and locked directly onto my desk. Someone whispered, "Look how far the former young master has fallen." I bet he actually rides the dirty public bus now. Good thing our school's tuition-free poverty scholarship finally came in handy for him. Oh wow, if you hadn't brought it up, I'd have totally forgotten. The charity scholarships and low-income slots were completely reserved for our dear brother Chen. Hearing their ridiculous chatter, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I was just about to stand up and walk away when Mu Xuan suddenly snapped, playing the righteous hero. You guys are crossing a serious line here, he accused. Everyone instantly stared at him in absolute shock. These guys and I are actually really good friends. We hang out all the time, and they were literally just making a harmless joke. You really don't need to make this a massive ethical issue, Mu Xuan. Lin Jiajin genuinely thought Mu Xuan was losing his mind. He didn't want to waste a single breath talking to this dramatic new heir. Look, I know your biological family is totally broke. After living that sweet billionaire lifestyle you got so used to, there's no way you can tolerate slumming it with them. I could actually beg mom and dad for you. If you just grovel and apologize properly, they definitely let you move back inside. Mu Xuan faked this deeply concerned look, pretending he actually cared about my well-being. To outsiders, his little act made him look like a noble saint. But we all knew this fake young master couldn't actually tell right from wrong anyway. Suddenly, the entire room went completely dead silent again. Everybody just stared blankly at Mu Xuan like they were watching some bizarre comedy sketch, looking at him as if he were an alien species. After a long, awkward pause, Lin Jiajin turned around and loudly asked, "Is this guy seriously not embarrassed right now? Because I'm catching hardcore secondhand embarrassment just watching him." The whole class instantly cracked up laughing. The entire situation was getting incredibly bizarre. Mu Xuan doubled down. "I sincerely want the best for you. That bankrupt trashy family can never give you a good life. Mom and dad are actually such good people they're just furious that you threw away our long history and selfishly took their cash. Seriously, go apologize to mom and dad and they'll definitely let you rejoin the Mu family." Hearing his endless delusional rambling, I just laughed out loud. "Wait, Suman Yu is actually designing my new bedroom?" I smirked, flashing him a highly sarcastic smile. I definitely never heard about that arrangement. Mu Xuan immediately dropped his gaze to the floor, laughing awkwardly and looking incredibly shy. I honestly told them it wasn't necessary, but they insisted that I'd suffered for so long in poverty, so they desperately wanted to compensate me properly. They stubbornly demanded we hire the absolute best interior designer in the city, I'll have them pick it up and design it exactly how I like. I tossed my phone on the table and flicked on the speaker. This guy was seriously hiding deep. An angry voice instantly blasted through the phone. "All of this is nonsense. When did I ever do design work? It is Mu Xuan, right? I literally told him off on the phone yesterday. Does he just not get it, or is he losing his mind? He is actually calling himself a part of the Mu family. He threw money at me to keep me quiet and work, claiming the Mu family isn't someone I can afford to offend. Who even wants his dirty money? And who cares if he belongs to the Mu family anyway? Seriously, what is his actual status in that family? How dare he order me around, spread rumors everywhere, and try to ruin my reputation? Can he even afford to pay for the damage he has caused?" The voice on the phone was loud and full of anger. Lin Jiajun immediately cut the call and winked at me, clearly fishing for a compliment. I just smiled and gave him a thumbs up. Honestly, everyone in that room was incredibly smart. Standing around guys our own age from the same elite circle, we could easily read each other's intentions. Nobody came to this top university just to study. We were all here to build powerful connections for the future. We would all end up working with the people around us, so making friends with valuable peers was essential. These relationships would be a massive advantage when we eventually inherited our family business empires. Who was real gold and who was totally fake really did not matter to them at all. The only thing they cared about was whether someone actually held any value. Anyone capable of topping our business class would definitely go on to become massive industry players. This was their prime chance to network. I might not fully buy into it right now, but if Mu Xuan ever got cut off from his wealthy family, he would be absolute zero. At first, no one really had any major complaints about him. Given the heavy influence of his family, they probably would have tried being his friend. Too bad he was so incredibly impatient. How dare he actually try to provoke me? I stayed quiet mainly because I was just too lazy to expose him. I hate wasting my time on totally useless people. But if Mu Xuan kept pushing his luck, he could not blame anyone for giving him the cold shoulder. The atmosphere suddenly shifted, feeling pretty heavy and incredibly awkward. Mu Xuan lost all the color in his face instantly, and the edges of his eyes turned red with pure frustration. He looked completely pathetic and almost worth pitying. Yet, someone was actually ready to step up and defend my honor right there. Clearly, there were still a few guys around who did not really like me. Lin Jijun shot up from his chair, totally furious. "You guys are crossing the line. Do you really enjoy making a fool out of others like this? He is actually worried about you. The Yi family just went completely bankrupt. He only wants to help you out. Are you really going to isolate him like this? Everyone just stared at him in dead sus. They already knew what Lin Jiajun was really trying to do here. Lin Jiajun looked furious on the outside, but deep down he was absolutely thrilled. After all, I had always completely overshadowed him. Now that my family had suddenly gone totally bankrupt, he thought he could finally gain the upper hand over me. So, he started acting tough and twisting the whole story. He was clearly using this golden chance to buddy up with the actual young master of that powerful Mu family. It was basically hitting two birds with one stone. Mu Xuan looked up in complete surprise. Trying hard to hide the deep embarrassment on his face, he shot Lin Jiajun a look of pure, desperate gratitude. Lin Jiajun replied with a very soft smile. His eyes showed a hint of sympathy, acting exactly like he genuinely considered Mu Xuan a close friend. Right at that second, the classroom door was knocked on. We all turned our heads at once and saw Lu Ruyan standing right outside, holding a stack of documents. Why is it so lively in here? Seeing Lin Jiajun looking awkward, she did not even give him a second glance and walked straight over to me. I just came to drop something off for the eldest young master. She said it casually, but Lin Jiajun did not dare talk back. My wealthy classmates were already the future heirs of their massive empires, but Lu Ruyan already commanded enough power to sit at the same table as their fathers. Mu Xuan secretly eyed the newcomer. The girl was wearing very simple, everyday clothes. Her skin was perfectly fair, and her face was absolutely stunning. She had this completely unique aura. A dark red Bodhi bead bracelet rested on her wrist. As she brushed past him, he caught the faint, fresh scent of sweet oranges. Mu Xuan felt entirely shaken to his core. Sure, the daughter of the Ye family was famously beautiful, but looking at the stunning girl standing right here, he honestly felt that nobody else could even compare to her. But she is wearing such basic clothes. At best, she is probably just a regular delivery girl. Mu Xuan had absolutely no clue that simply glancing at Lu Ruyan's outfit and her other so-called basic accessories, especially that Bodhi bead bracelet, cost as much as a luxury villa. Shen Mingxi chuckled and joked, "What is so incredibly important that Sister Lu had to deliver it herself?" Her gaze locked straight onto mine. The affection hiding in her eyes was painfully obvious. I am the eldest young master's personal assistant, so I have to deliver every single paper myself. Everyone burst into laughter and immediately started teasing us. But Lu Ruyan and I did not feel shy about it at all. We just stayed totally relaxed forward. Our bond was perfectly clear to everyone. We were innocent, close childhood friends, and we always completely understood each other's feelings without needing to hide a single thing. We just hadn't officially confirmed our relationship yet because the timing was off, and we really wanted to focus on building our careers first. She dropped the documents right on my desk. That instantly grabbed everyone's attention and praise. They eagerly crowded around me. This project plan is drafted so perfectly. Brother Chen's work is genuinely unmatched. It looks like this year's top spot is definitely yours. My proposal has way more solid points anyway. I just smiled and stayed completely quiet. Leaning back in my chair, I looked like the victory was already in the bag. Mu Xuan took a quick glance at it. He instantly recognized that the Yi family helped draft it. The little sister of the Yi family made this, didn't she? Bringing a child's random doodle in as an essential business project material is a massive insult to all the other competitors. Shen Mingxi threw him a completely speechless look. Saying something like that is wildly disrespectful. This was literally rated as the absolute best, and you just call it a random doodle? Mu Xuan immediately shut his mouth. I curled my lips slightly and spoke up. My sister actually worked incredibly hard on this design. She prepared it exclusively for me. Your efforts were totally hollow, so how could you ever compete with her work? My voice carried a heavy, protective edge. Everyone immediately started groaning and complaining. I am sitting right here. Sister Lu, please hurry up and put him in his place. Lu Ruyan casually slid both hands into her pockets and leaned slightly over my desk. Honestly, only the eldest young master can control me. Who am I to boss him around? Hearing that, I could not help but laugh softly. My finger gently brushed against Lu Ruyan's hand. Refusing to admit defeat, Mu Xuan leaned closer. You are not actually a student here, are you? Look, I totally get working hard just to earn some extra money. Lu Ruyan narrowed her eyes in complete disbelief. She already figured something was severely wrong with Mu Xuan's brain, but she never expected him to be this ridiculously clueless. The entire room went dead silent for a quick second. Did this guy seriously just call her a delivery driver? That was easily the most absurd joke of the entire year. Lin Jiajun started laughing so hard he could barely even stand up straight. Did you seriously think she was delivering packages? How could she ever compare to Brother Chen? I curled my lips into a completely speechless smile. I instantly took back my initial thought that Mu Xuan was actually smart. This guy was just unbelievably naive. Honestly, so naive he bordered on stupid. Anyone who could casually joke around with wealthy heirs and who everyone respectfully called Sister Lu could never be some average nobody. Ignoring him, Lu Ruyan just dipped her head slightly and stared down at my hand. Su Menu asked me to pass along a quick message. All the design plans and new furniture just arrived. She wants to know if starting the office work tomorrow works for you. I naturally lowered my voice. I will text her an answer later. I glanced up, locking eyes with the girl's deep, steady gaze. The huge merger and acquisition deal is finally completely settled. You still need to catch that major flight later this week, right? I immediately let go of her hand and gently nudged her arm. You better hurry up and handle your business. Do not miss that flight. I promise I will bring you a nice gift when I return. I smiled softly and gently brushed her chin. While we stood there whispering, our voices were so low it felt like an invisible wall had suddenly dropped right between us and the room. All the other wealthy heirs naturally backed away to give us some space. I snacked on sweets without interrupting. Lin Jiajun rested his chin on his hand, while a massive, invisible question mark slowly seemed to float right above Shen Mingxi's head. Let's look at this together. They were kids from wealthy families, but even at this age, they could not resist street snacks. Watching the crowd, I noticed Yi Jixi immediately. She stood out, looking exactly like a well-bred girl from a high-class family. A faint trace of sadness lingered in her eyes. Honestly, I thought if she ever starred in a historical period drama, she would steal every young guy's heart. You only had to look over at Lin Jiajun's reaction to know exactly what I mean. He could not even blink while staring at Yi Jixi. Suddenly, two voices shouted out at the exact same time. I turned toward the sound and saw Mushu laughing, with a bright glowing smile on his face. He was sprinting straight toward Yi Jixi. Seeing Mushuan smile so brightly, her expression instantly grew tangled and conflicted. She remembered how she used to find him right after school, and how he would eagerly run up to her just like this. She loved her younger brother so deeply. Even when the Yi family first went completely bankrupt, nothing really changed between them. The two of them would happily take the bus home together every single day, and sometimes they would just feel like walking instead. Halfway there, Mushuan would always ask for a piggyback ride. She would gladly carry her little brother on her back all the way home. While riding up there, he would lean over and tell her, "You are the absolute best sister in the world." But those beautiful memories shattered fast. You and I know how quickly things change. I really do not know when Mushuan actually lost that sweet, innocent smile. What replaced it was a twisted face full of pure hatred. He would say, "I refuse to ride that crowded bus anymore. I am exhausted. You have to carry me on your back. Why on earth are you so completely useless? You get tired after taking just 2 steps. Can you not even afford to buy a bicycle? If you have no money, go get a job." Eventually, he completely abandoned the older sister who loved him most. He walked away from the very person who he once proudly called the greatest sister in the whole world. Yi Jixi swallowed hard, her throat totally dry. She had no idea how to act around him anymore. Meanwhile, Mushuan completely ignored her awkward hesitation and just kept laughing with that incredibly sweet smile. He said, "I really miss walking to school together. It is a real shame I got transferred over to Shangwu. Honestly, it feels like my new classmates do not really like me much." They completely refused, choosing to only play with Mushuan instead. As we talked, his smile slowly faded and his eyes grew red, acting like I was the villain who deliberately isolated him. It made him feel terrible. Ye Zixi instantly understood what his words actually meant. Remembering the time she had spent with me over the past few days, a sharp reply was already on the tip of her tongue. He isn't that kind of guy. He would never be so petty. Even though I grew up wealthy for 17 years, I was always friendly and incredibly generous. I never once looked down on the Yi family. I never disliked them for being poor. I never complained about the hard beds. I always praised Mom for her cooking, bought sweet treats for my little sister, and constantly helped out with the daily needs of our entire household. I truly behaved perfectly, so well that it actually made her feel quite embarrassed. As an older sister, she felt terrible because she could not provide me with any real financial help or support. Instead, she just kept causing trouble for me everywhere. Hearing this, Ma Chuan's face instantly stiffened. He genuinely believed I had permanently left the Mu family. He thought that once I saw the broken-down state of the Ye family home, my spoiled rich kid habits would immediately resurface. However, Ye Zixi actually had a really positive influence on me. It honestly seemed like in just 2 days, she would completely forget her wealthy 17-year-old brother and fully accept me. Hearing Ye Zixi defend me left Mu Chuan absolutely stunned. I simply pursed my lips. I obviously knew young Master Mu loved claiming sisters everywhere. My eyes, which usually sparkled so brightly, softened a little, though a dangerous, sharp edge still flashed through them. "You just love snatching other people's sisters, don't you?" Instantly, Ye Zixi's sadness completely vanished, leaving nothing but a very soft, warm expression across her face. She didn't even spare a single glance at Mu Chuan. My eyes sparkled slightly, and my mouth slowly curled into a soft smile. Watching us siblings happily walk away together, Mu Chuan was suddenly filled with extreme jealousy burning deep in his eyes. Seeing us chatting and laughing as we left, he bitterly thought that all of this originally belonged to him. Furious, Mu Chuan ground his teeth and clenched his fists tightly. His nails dug deep into his flesh, yet he felt no pain at all. His breathing grew heavy. It was only after our shadows completely faded from view that Mu Xuan slowly snapped back to his senses. Everything he ever craved was finally in the palm of his hands. Soaking in the pure luxury and prestige of the Mu family, he scoffed. They are just a pathetic bunch of beggars. I am the true young master of this wealthy household. Staring up at that massive, breathtaking Mu family villa, all the bitter grievances in Mu Xuan's heart completely vanished. He let out a proud laugh and barked a highly arrogant order. Sun Shen, why are you just standing there doing absolutely nothing? Hurry up and brew some tea. Sun Shen gave a slight nervous bow. Ever since this new young master returned, whenever the master and madam left the house, the servants had to walk on eggshells while serving him. Around here, they didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. If the eldest young master did dislike the slightest detail, a brutal scolding was guaranteed. The tea is awful, he would snap. This food is pure garbage, he would yell, forcing the chef to cook the meal all over again. The staff remembered how the previous young master, Mu Chen, never lost his temper. At least he treated them like actual human beings. But now, Mu Xuan smashed cups and plates constantly. He acted like they were his personal slaves instead of hired staff, ordering everyone around on a power trip. Mu Xuan's nasty voice echoed out once more. Sun Shen snapped right out of her daze and rushed off to brew his tea. Mu Xuan grabbed the elegant teacup and took a quick sip. The very next second, he violently hurled the hot cup straight at Sun Shen. She instinctively stumbled half a step backward, but she simply could not dodge it in time. The boiling hot tea splashed right over her leg. Sun Shen kept her head completely down and quietly rubbed her red, blistering hand. She immediately knelt on the floor to gather the shattered teacup. I will brew another cup right away. The head butler watched this entire scene unfold in silence. Pushing his glasses up his nose, he stepped forward with quiet footsteps. In a low, steady voice he warned, "Young master, you should attend your etiquette class." Mu Xuan shot him an incredibly furious glare. What etiquette class? The butler's calm expression did not flinch at all. The welcome banquet is this weekend. The master and madam specifically requested that you arrive strictly on time and make zero mistakes during the party. Mu Xuan suddenly shot up from his seat. What exactly do you mean by that? Know your damn place. You are just a pathetic servant taking our family's money. And yet you have the nerve to give me orders? Teacher Li always carried a wooden ruler, his face painfully strict. Whenever Mu Xuan made a single mistake, the teacher would scold him brutally, completely ignoring the boy's high status. He did not care about titles at all. Acting that arrogant clearly proved the teacher had full backing from the wealthy Mu couple. Standing tall without any trace of fear or arrogance, the calm butler broke a slight sweat. Both of your sisters are returning home to attend the party. Fu Xuan had already heard rumors that his two older sisters had terrible tempers. Regardless of the gossip, he was meeting his biological sisters for the very first time. He really had to put on a flawless performance. Once he won both sisters over to his side, his position as the true heir would be absolutely secure. Then he would see who dared to look down on him. Swallowing his raging anger, Mu Xuan reluctantly dragged himself off to attend that miserable etiquette class. Meanwhile, completely unlike the freezing, high-stress atmosphere of the Mu household, the Yi family's tiny home was bursting with absolute warmth. Our whole family sat together laughing happily, occasionally passing plates of hot food back and forth. There were only 2 chicken legs, and everyone kept offering them up. The kids got the drumsticks, while the adults happily settled for the wingtips, the middle sections, and the dry chicken breasts. Smiling brightly, Mother Yi handed out the smaller pieces of chicken. As for the main chicken legs, she dropped one onto my plate and gave the other to Father Yi. Ye Zixi seemed in a much better mood today than usual. Maybe it was because she finally saw Mu Xuan again and felt a huge sense of relief washing over her. I stared down at the juicy chicken leg, resting inside my bowl, feeling unfamiliar but wonderful warmth in my chest. Back at the Mu family, table manners were brutally strict. Dining seats were placed incredibly far apart from one another. Speaking during meals was strictly banned, and making any noise was a massive sin. Passing food to anyone else was completely forbidden by the rigid rules. And worst of all, the rich parents were rarely even home. My 2 older sisters had been shipped off overseas for their elite studies. Most days, I was left totally isolated, eating my grand meals completely alone. But this humble Yi family was entirely different. Let's step right into their little world. The family shared everything, constantly laughing and talking. Even crammed inside a tiny 10-square-meter home, the atmosphere was completely filled with warmth, and the place was buzzing with life everywhere. You and I both know, maybe this is what a real home actually feels like. Mother Yi looked a bit shy and embarrassed, holding her hands together. She quietly mentioned that since we usually head to school, Dad is out taking online taxi orders. I want to start a small business too. I want to set up a food stall to help ease our family's financial burden. My plan is to set it up right near the primary school. I do not have much experience, so I am not sure if I can actually run a street food stall well. Before marriage, she was the pampered daughter of her house. She would do a few basic chores sometimes, but aside from that, she never had to worry about a single thing. When she married Father Yi, his business was already pretty successful. Because of that, she was able to stay home and live comfortably as a full-time housewife for years without any stress. She had never gone out to earn her own money. After the Yi Shi family went bankrupt, she wanted to go out and find a solid job. But Mu Shuyan complained that there was nobody left to handle the household chores. He told her to just stay home and be a full-time housewife. Honestly, running a house is not an easy job at all. The endless exhausting chores take a massive physical toll, eating up the entire day before you know it. There is absolutely no free time. Seeing her family working so hard every single day, she agreed to stay home and manage things. But now that I am finally back home, everyone is fired up with a totally new sense of energy. Everyone wants to work even harder now. She wanted to step up and contribute to our family income too. Ye Zixi immediately backed her up saying, "Mom, you stay cooped up inside this house all day doing chores with no one around. You don't even have anyone to talk to. Running a food stall is a great idea. Do something meaningful for yourself. Even if you don't make much money, just treat it like a nice breath of fresh air. Just think of it as a way to clear your mind." Father Yi put down his chopsticks and tightly grabbed his wife's hand across the table. "In all these years, you have honestly worked so hard for us," he told her gently. "You never got to do anything you actually wanted for this house. People always want to realize their own self-worth. If you have an idea to set up a food stall, then you should absolutely go out there and try it out." Seeing the whole family support her, Mother Yi secretly breathed a heavy sigh of relief. Finally, she looked over at me, since I had not said a single word yet. I thought about it for a second, and then gave my honest opinion. You would have to stock a bunch of inventory, which drives up startup costs. Primary school kids do not carry much pocket money anyway, so getting your initial investment back could take a really long time. The morning and evening rush hours are pretty much guaranteed. Those nearby snack stalls always do great business. You could totally make and sell some local street food. There are several schools around there, so a steady flow of hungry customers is guaranteed. You just have to wake up super early to prep fresh ingredients, which could be tough. But overall, I completely support you opening this stall. Hearing me say that, Mother Yi smiled, clearly feeling a massive wave of relief wash over her. A little hard work is fine, she laughed, but I only know how to cook basic home meals. I have no idea how to make any fancy street food. I smiled back. Mom, whatever you cook is way better than any outside restaurant anyway. We really do not need to go the fancy route at all. Just make a tasty, filling breakfast. Trust me, the market demand for that will be huge. As for exactly what to sell though, I cannot really give any specific menu suggestions. There are always so many snack stalls at the school gates. I have never bought anything from them, nor did I ever pay attention to what they actually sold. Being raised as the eldest son of the Mu family meant strictly managing my physical appearance. I had to constantly obsess over my diet. Everything had to be perfectly healthy to maintain that flawless elite image. The Mu family firmly believed that eating local street food was completely beneath their high social status. Looking even slightly greedy would instantly ruin the precious Mu family reputation. Living under their roof all those years, I had completely buried my natural cravings for good food a long time ago. It actually got to the point where I barely ate anything at all. The Mu family kept firing and replacing their private chefs one after another. That is when I realized my lack of appetite was not about the food. It was the cold, suffocating pressure of living in that toxic house. Yi Zixi thought about it for a second. When I was in middle school, there was a guy selling stuffed rice balls at the gate. They tasted incredible. Honestly, looking at the food stalls near the school gates these days, it feels like we should definitely sell rice balls. They would be a massive hit. My parents looked at each other, clearly thinking it was a brilliant idea. Tomorrow, let's grab some ingredients and do a test run. You guys can be my official taste testers, Mom said. I had never seen Mother Yi this excited before. The moment she realized she could actually make money and support our family, a massive wave of pure enthusiasm took over her. Then, Father Yi brought up a very important logistical question for us. If we are going to sell hot rice balls, do we need to custom order a food cart? I have watched other vendors selling street snacks before. Most of them have these specially designed, built-in food stalls to keep things organized. That way, you know exactly where every single ingredient goes. Yi Zixi suddenly remembered something too. The old place used a massive metal steamer to keep all their rice balls piping hot. But honestly, I think we can find a better way to do it. We could use a traditional wooden barrel instead. If we tightly cover the top with a thick layer of non-woven fabric, the heat insulation will be absolutely perfect. It should work just as well, if not better. Hearing this, Father Yi smiled brightly. He happily slapped his thigh. Tomorrow, I will ask my taxi driver buddies where we can track one down. Let's figure out exactly what fillings we want to put inside these rice balls. What should we add? Tomorrow, we can grab the ingredients. Let's buy everything and do a proper taste test. Yi Zixi quickly cleared off the dining table. As we all sat around passionately brainstorming our new business plan, someone would randomly crack a hilarious joke. The whole family would burst into loud laughter. Honestly, their execution speed completely blew my mind. This family was unbelievably decisive and efficient. We literally just mentioned setting up a food stall, and somehow we were already finalizing the menu, breaking down ingredients, and calculating our daily operating costs. You and I can probably agree on this. The less people have, the more courage they find to take massive risks. They are not afraid to make mistakes, and that extraordinary courage usually leads straight to success. The cheerful energy in the room completely pulled me in. Since I am finally a real part of this family now, I subconsciously raised my hand and volunteered. I can totally solve our food cart problem, I said. The entire room went dead silent. Everyone immediately turned and stared right at me, which honestly made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Father Yi slightly furrowed his brows. Look, I know you probably managed to build up some decent savings while living with the Mew family, but now that you have come back home to the Yi family, you are our kid. We can brainstorm these family business ideas together, but there is no way I am letting my children fund this. You already hired Suminyu to redesign our house, which was a massive favor on your part. I promise, I will brand new expensive furniture you bought. That brand new expensive furniture you bought. Hearing him say that always made my chest feel tight. Maybe it was just because I had never experienced a genuine family bond before. Adjusting to this much unconditional love was incredibly difficult for me. I quickly jumped back in to explain. Actually, I have a friend who works in stainless steel fabrication. He might be able to find us a cheap second-hand cart. Father Yi nodded thoughtfully at that idea. Seizing the perfect opportunity, I casually mentioned that Su Minyu's construction crew was coming over tomorrow, just so Mother Yi wouldn't be caught off guard. There is no rush with the cart. We all ended up staying up and chatting until 1 in the morning. Since us 3 kids had school tomorrow, we finally took turns showering. After my shower, I headed straight back to my bedroom. I locked the wooden door and checked my phone. Su Minyu had texted me, and it was obvious the head designer went completely all out. Believe it or not, she totally refused to charge me for the high-end materials, the modern furniture, or even the labor. She must have brought in her own personal construction crew. Su Minyu never trusted random outside contractors anyway. She knew some guys would just cut corners and do a terrible job just to meet a tight deadline. That never met her strict quality standards. For luxury interior design, she always maintained her own elite construction crew. Her trusted guys handled all the critical details. Obviously, those hefty expenses are usually passed straight to the client. She could have easily charged me just to recover her basic costs. But honestly, what is money between close friends? I always used to think Su Minyu had a terrible temper, but she was actually fiercely loyal. Whenever she snapped at someone, she always had a completely valid reason. Maybe the client had absolute garbage taste, or they just could not tell good design from bad. How is that ever Su Minyu's fault? That is clearly just the other person being completely clueless. I went ahead and transferred the exact amount written on the invoice anyway. A second later, my phone buzzed with her reply. That Mushuyan kid is totally psychotic. Guess what he just said to me? He literally called me low class. Where did he get this wild superiority complex? How many years has it been since the Qing dynasty fell? Yet he still divides everyone into upper and lower classes. He even used the Mu family name. He actually said that if I refuse to design for him, the elite Mu family will permanently blacklist me. What an absolute joke. He really thinks the Mu family reigns supreme over everything. I genuinely think Chen Jingyi and Mu Yaowei have lost their minds too. You literally threw me out on the street for him. It is hilarious how much they love to calculate every little detail. Mu Shuyan had just finished spouting his crazy nonsense on the phone, and their banquet invitation magically landed right in my hands. Should I actually go there just to humiliate him? I paused at that final sentence, then simply replied with 4 words, meet at the school gate. Shen Mingshi mentioned receiving the invitation, and a sinister smirk crossed his face. It's Friday. We definitely need to crash the Mu family's grand recognition banquet. I will live stream this massive spectacle just for you. Shen Mingshi totally understood Lin Jiajun's mood. He wouldn't be planning to completely ruin the event, would he? They could openly show their disdain. Yeah, they clearly saw through the Mu family's fragile situation. If they ended up offending anyone, it wouldn't matter. They've run huge businesses for generations, and their influence cannot be underestimated. Anyone daring to openly challenge and humiliate the prestigious Mez Yu family at the recognition banquet usually meets a terrible end. Jiajun probably wouldn't understand my angle. Why on earth do I even need to lift a finger? Haven't you heard the breaking news? The 2 daughters of the Mu family are returning to the country. He subconsciously glanced at me, searching for answers. My gaze shifted slightly. I told them I was just a broke high school student now, so my updates wouldn't be as thrilling as theirs. Shen Shiming raised an eyebrow, his words practically dripping with heavy sarcasm. Even if you are totally trapped right now, you are still a young master. I stopped walking and turned around. When the three of them returned to the classroom, they heard Mu Shuyan bragging loudly. Mom and Dad are throwing a huge recognition banquet to officially introduce me as the Mu family's true young master. I don't have friends in this circle yet, so I hope you all come. Seeing me step through the doorway, his fake smile widened. There will be incredible food at the banquet. Mom and Dad bought me brand new designer clothes. You can come pick out whatever you like. The stuff you buy is only fit for others, but Shen Mingxi instantly fired back. Our Mu Chen doesn't wear cheap secondhand clothes, nor does he care about fancy food. Whenever Mu Shuyan was around, my friends fiercely defended me. Even though I was no longer the Mu family's golden boy, I still had fiercely loyal people backing me up. I didn't spare Mu Shuyan a single extra glance and calmly walked straight back to my desk. The Mu family is completely out of line. If you want to invite people, you need to give advance notice. A last-minute pity invite simply doesn't count. His backpack hung off the desk. He clapped his hands together. Mu Shuyan acted completely misunderstood and heartbroken. I just felt awful that you are living in such poverty with the Yi family. You must be struggling there. I genuinely wanted to invite you. At the recognition banquet, Mom and Dad might actually agree to take you back. Shen Mingxi scoffed, always apologizing every single day. What exactly did Mu Chen do wrong to warrant an apology? Mu Shuyan instantly went silent. Tears welled up in his pathetic eyes. What a tragic, fragile white lotus. He literally started the drama himself, yet he was crying like somebody else had brutally bullied him. Lin Zian would never miss a golden opportunity like this. He immediately stood up to defend Mu Shuyan. He is just being incredibly kind and worries about your living situation. Why are you acting so aggressive? Lin Jiajun just laughed in his face. I think his brain is completely short-circuiting. Did anyone even ask if Mu Chen wants to return to the Mu family? Since when do massive hypocrites make the decisions? His lips twitched slightly in annoyance. Being raised in this elite circle, he easily recognized Mu Shuyan's absolute phoniness. He was just operating differently from Lin Jiajun. Lin Jiajun was a truly unique presence in class. His parents genuinely loved each other, and his family life was actually happy. Eventually, Lin Jiajun would inherit their massive business empire. But he had brothers at home, so the prime inheritance rights weren't automatically guaranteed. He didn't believe his luck was foolproof, so he was actively searching for a strategic marriage alliance partner. If he managed to marry one of the Mu family's two powerful daughters, his status would skyrocket instantly. His lifelong worries would vanish, and his bloodline would secure a permanent bond with the Mu family. Moving forward, he would gain massive leverage in his own household. Despite knowing everything, he chose to enable Mu Shuyan. Mu Shuyan was too naive for this cutthroat circle, but that exact stupidity made him an easy target. Honestly, I didn't want to interfere. Whatever schemes others cooked up had nothing to do with me. As long as he didn't actively bother me, I didn't care. I understood the twisted complexity of high society better than anyone in that room. Avoiding unnecessary drama is always better. Making enemies everywhere is just stupid. There is simply no need for it. Nobody can predict if today's outcasts will suddenly climb to the top of the pyramid tomorrow. Right then, I broke my silence so Lin Jiajun wouldn't accidentally offend everyone on my behalf. I stared directly at Mu Shuyan. Let me make two things crystal clear. I have absolutely zero intention of returning to the Mu family. I couldn't care less about competing with you for their pathetic affection. As long as you don't cause drama in my face, we can all live in peace. But if you ever dare to cross my bottom line, we'll see if the Mu family can actually save you. Still sniffling, Mu Shuyan processed my harsh warning, and his fragile heart trembled violently. He stared at me in total shock, meeting my dead calm gaze. He just couldn't comprehend it. I wasn't isolated at all. Everyone in class supported me just like before. They still respectfully called me Brother G. How did I dare to speak with such overwhelming confidence now? Who exactly gave me this level of undeniable power? If Lu Ru wasn't backing me, seeing Mu Shuyan intensely glaring at me, there was heavy scrutiny in his teary eyes. Shen Mingxi lounged comfortably right beside me. With your pig-like brains, you'll never understand. He has absolutely no idea how powerful I actually am. All he knows is that whatever they desperately want, things they can't get even by begging, I can effortlessly acquire for them. Maybe my personal connections aren't as deeply rooted as the Mu family's legacy, but if I merge all my hidden resources, even if the Mu family sits on the Golden Pyramid's peak, a day will definitely come when they crash down. Shen Mingxi let out a cold laugh. To survive in this ruthless circle, you need to be smart first. His tone dripped with biting sarcasm. Lin Jiajun didn't want to waste breath lecturing Mu Shuyan any further. He just wanted to ensure Mu Shuyan didn't create a massive scene. He awkwardly stopped Shen Mingxi from pushing the issue. Mu Shuyan was practically grinding his teeth to dust. His glaring eyes slowly turned bloodshot. Finally, he spun around in blind rage and bolted out the door. Lin Zian called after him with fake, exaggerated concern. After getting completely ignored, he curled his lips into a smirk and muttered under his breath. If you want to win a person's complete trust, strike when their psychological defense is at rock bottom. He shot me a calculated look. I don't waste energy on useless ventures. You hold zero value to me. Lin Xian tightened his lips and quietly slipped out of the classroom, eagerly chasing after the fleeing Mu Shuyan. Both miserable annoyances were finally gone. Seriously, the heir, raised by the Mu family, only sees pure business. Where could warmth and conscience as possibly exist inside their hollow chests? I could tolerate hanging around them because we are exactly the same age and have known each other for years. We built solid trust over time. But regarding the Yi family, they are literally just strangers who happen to share my blood. How long will I actually stay in the Yi household? Lin Jiajin looked visibly stunned by my cynical question. With my distinct personality and skills, if I walk away from the Mu family, I will most likely forge my own dominant alliance. Now that I have integrated into the Yi family, maybe I have different secret motives, but I won't stay trapped there forever. Being an underage kid brings endless, annoying restrictions. The second I turn 18, I can open private accounts and achieve total financial independence. It'll be a breeze. I am not helping the Yi family blindly without a solid motive. I don't need to over-explain the entire renovation project to anyone. I simply did it because I want a comfortable living space for myself. The eldest young master isn't accustomed to roughing it. I plan to relax all year long. Honestly, I also want the Yi family to burn less cash on me when the day comes for me to leave. Lin Xian stood silently in the 5th-floor corridor of the teaching building. Mu Shuyan hid alone behind the rockery, sobbing miserably. About 20 minutes later, Lin Jian slowly made his way downstairs. Right before reaching the rockery, he deliberately messed up his hair. He quickly did 2 sets of high knees, half panting, and pretended to rush over in a total panic. So this is where you've been hiding. I've been looking everywhere for you. Mu Xuan stared at Lin Jian in pure surprise. I really didn't want to go back into that classroom. Feeling Lin Jian's genuine concern, Mu Xuan never expected anyone to actually take his side. Instantly, all the bitter grievances buried in his heart exploded. Hot tears started streaming down his face like a broken string of pearls. I just wanted to report a classmate. I never thought everyone would be so incredibly biased against me. Lin Jian gently patted his back. That whole group is exactly like that. They always just listen to Mu Chen. I honestly can't stand looking at their faces, which is why I don't get along with anyone in that class. But hey, I can be your friend. Mu Xuan's eyes instantly lit up with deep emotion, and he nodded his head vigorously, letting out a soft sniffle. Ever since returning to the wealthy Mu family estate, he hadn't found a single person to open up to. The Mu parents were barely ever home, and his 2 sisters were studying abroad. Aside from a bunch of clueless servants, he had 0 friends at school. Everyone just kissed up to him, but nobody actually understood his pain. It's not like he could pour his heart out to a stray dog. Lin Jian firmly grabbed Mu Xuan's hand. I completely understand you. Moving from an ordinary home into a mega-rich family takes a massive amount of adjustment. Your stress levels must be through the roof right now. If you ever feel upset, you can always tell me. I might not be able to fix it, but just having someone listen makes things feel a whole lot lighter. Mu Shua tightly gripped Lin Jian's hand in return. Why does the whole class always take Mu Chen's side? Is it just because of Liu Ruyan? She isn't even in our class, yet everyone treats her like sheer royalty. There has to be some shady deal going on behind the scenes. Honestly, I really don't even care about family status. Since I have a solid connection with Liu Ruyan, I'd survive even if I went totally bankrupt. Seriously, Liu Ruyan definitely plays a massive role in all of this, doesn't she? Lin Jian didn't actually know the full story, so he kept it vague. Mu Chen, Liu Ruyan, and Shen Mingxi have known each other for years. Their bond isn't just about business perks, even though they aren't exactly an official couple yet. Just look at those 2. Plus Lin Jiajin. He's the guaranteed heir to the Lin Empire, and is basically blood brothers with Mu Chen. Their loyalty is way stronger than most actual siblings. With those heavy hitters backing him up, who would ever dare cross him? Lin Jian had to admit privately that Mu Chen was an incredibly sharp guy. He kept that last thought to himself, leading Mu Xuan to assume that Mu Chen only survived the storms because Liu Ruyan and Lin Jiajun bailed him out. Is the Liu family really that powerful? Lin Jian quickly reassured him and cleared up his doubts. The Liu family is literally one of the wealthiest dynasties in Jingxi. Their net worth and influence easily rival the Mu family. Both corporate empires are deeply tied together in business. However, the Liu family's core leaders, meaning Liu Ruyan's parents, were in a massive car crash a while back and still haven't fully recovered. She was forced to take the reins way earlier than expected. That's common knowledge in the Jingxi elite circle. Let's pause and appreciate this for a second. Liu Ruyan is an absolute force of nature. She had just finished high school, ditched her plans to study abroad, and stepped right in to run her family's massive corporate empire. Over the past year, she hasn't made a single mistake. She handled every crisis flawlessly. The board members absolutely adore her, respectfully calling her Little Boss Liu. Listening closely to Lin Jian's breakdown, Mu Xuan rubbed the edge of his shirt, wheels turning in his head. The Mu and Liu families had incredibly deep ties. If Liu Ru somehow became his fiancée, then Mu Chen could never pose a threat to him again. Meanwhile, back at the old residential apartment, Mother Yi was busy prepping fresh rice balls. She needed a ton of ingredients, so Father Yi skipped driving his cab today to stay home and help Mother Yi in the kitchen. When Father Ye suddenly spotted Su Minyu at the door, he was totally shocked. He quickly stepped aside, respectfully inviting the interior designer inside. Su Minyu stepped in, offering a polite greeting. Glancing toward the busy figure in the kitchen, she raised her voice slightly. I'm a friend of Mu Chen's. I've brought a crew over to start the home renovation. I really hope we aren't interrupting anything. Mother Yi quickly wiped her hands clean and rushed out. Oh, please take a seat and have some tea. Su Minyu waved her hand casually. No need to be formal. Mu Chen asked us to clear out all this old furniture. You should just pack up your clothes and personal items. If you actually want to keep any of the old furniture, just let me know where to put it. My guys will move it out. Mother Yi and Father Yi just stared at each other. Both of them looked completely stunned. Father Yi scratched his head, totally confused. Wait, what does this mean? Su Minyu blinked. Did Mu Chen not tell you? He literally hired me to renovate the entire apartment. He already bought all brand new furniture. Father Yi's head started spinning instantly. How much cash was it going to take to replace absolutely everything? Mother Yi quickly grabbed his hand, subtly signaling him not to panic over the details. Since everything was already paid for, they shouldn't waste Su Menyu's time. She quickly pulled off her apron, tossed it on the coffee table, and shot Su Menyu a warm, welcoming smile as she suggested. Let's haul the old furniture downstairs first. We won't make you clean a thing. We brought a massive truck, so moving it is a breeze. Otherwise, dealing with all this heavy stuff yourself would force you to hire a crew. Empty the bedroom so it's easier to pack. Su Minyu yelled back at the moving crew behind her. 3 of you, haul that furniture downstairs. 2 of you, get inside and strip that wallpaper. The couple scrambled to pack their things. Su Minyu watched the crew like a hawk. Line up those wallpaper edges perfectly. Are you guys blind? Why are you leaving such a massive gap? Can't you see the plaster peeling off that wall? Don't you know you'd have to wipe that down before gluing anything? What, are you planning to plant a garden in that dirt? Fix the edges on that window frame right now. It's completely crooked. Rip everything off and reapply it perfectly. Hearing her bark orders, the terrified contractors practically got goosebumps. Their hands started moving twice as fast. The infamous, perfectionist designer Su Minyu definitely lived up to her legendary reputation. Meanwhile, inside the apartment, the chaotic home renovation raged on. Father Yi jumped in to help occasionally, while Mother slipped back into the kitchen to finish her rice balls. Designer Su poured a steaming cup and handed it right to her. Su Minyu stood with her hands glued to her hips. Mid-rant, hearing the soft voice, her fiery temper instantly vanished. She spun around, taking the mug with both hands. Thank you so much, Auntie. Auntie, there's zero need to be so formal with me. Mu Chen and I go way back. You can just call me Xiao Su. Mother Yi thought this young designer was surprisingly polite and incredibly well-mannered, and definitely not as intimidating as she initially seemed. I'm planning to run a little street stall selling rice balls. I'm just testing recipes at home today. We haven't even cooked lunch yet, so if you're feeling hungry, would you like some? Su Minyu didn't hesitate for a single second. Honestly, I'm starving right now. A bright smile completely lit up Mother Yi's face. She glanced over at the exhausted construction crew. Why don't we let everyone take a quick break? With this many guys, won't that be a huge hassle for you? Not at all. I actually want to get feedback from a bunch of people. Hearing that, Su Minyu ordered the entire crew to stop working. Grab some food, guys, then get right back to the grind. Mother Yi ducked into the kitchen and carried out massive plates of fresh rice balls. There were tons of different flavors, all neatly sliced in half. Everyone dig in and let me know your thoughts. Su Minyu hadn't even taken a bite yet, but just seeing the filling, she started showering her with praise. Everyone sells frozen stuff nowadays. Barely anyone uses fresh ingredients like you. After taking a bite, she instantly threw up a thumbs up. Absolutely delicious. She kept hyping up the food, making Mother Yi feel totally validated and thrilled. The exhausted workers were also happily devouring their snacks. The crew got back to work. You and I know she's dying to ask. Mother Yi invited the designer to sit for tea. Sensing her curiosity, Su Minyu smiled. So, how did you and Mu Chen meet? He isn't too old. It's probably been about 10 years since you guys first met each other. Mother Yi nodded her head thoughtfully, but after a moment she looked a little embarrassed. She sighed. Ever since Mu Chen came back to us, we feel like he's completely distant. Do you know anything about his daily life? Can you tell us more about him? Su Minyu finally understood the situation. I stayed with the Yi family for a completely different reason, but they genuinely accepted me as their own child. However, since I had never truly felt any love growing up, my personality had naturally become a bit cold. Even though my attitude seemed friendly on the surface, there was a massive wall blocking any real emotional connection. Mother Yi wanted to care for me, but didn't know how. Su Minyu let out a slow, heavy breath. She could feel that my new parents were genuinely good people. At first she worried I would suffer living in the Yi household. She decided to tell them everything she knew about my past. When I was living with the Mew family, my foster parents barely paid any attention to me. I was practically raised by the two daughters of the Mew family. They never pampered me, though. Our bond was just a messy mix of love, hate, and endless mind games. Because of all that, I never experienced real warmth, and my empathy just slowly faded away. Sure, I had plenty of friends who helped fill that deep emotional void, but they could never replace the family affection I always craved. I slowly grew completely quiet and way too serious. My manners and attitude were far better than most kids my age, but I completely lost my childhood innocence. The Moo household was never a real home to me anyway. There was zero warmth there. Everything felt as cold as a lifeless machine. They raised 3 incredibly talented children, but honestly, not a single one of us was mentally normal. We all carried some pretty extreme emotional damage. When Mother Yi heard about the miserable days I spent with the Mew family, her heart just shattered with pain. She always assumed that her biological son was living a carefree and incredibly happy life over there. Returning to a poor family, she originally thought I would struggle to accept my new reality, pushing us further apart. But now she realized I had never truly experienced love, which is why I was so indifferent to everything. As for what I actually like, what I usually like to eat, she honestly had no clue. She only heard that the Moo family chefs were constantly replaced, with nobody ever lasting more than 6 months. Right after school ended for the day, Yi Zixi and I went to the primary school to pick up Yi Ji. Several people noticed Yi Zixi and said hello. They asked, "Did your family strike it rich? Why did you replace all the furniture?" Yi Zixi was completely caught off guard. She instinctively turned to look at me, her younger brother, standing right beside her. "Wasn't the plan just to rearrange the layout and add a study table? Why on earth did you replace all the furniture?" I just blinked innocently. This was entirely Suminyu's bold idea. She knows people from top furniture brands, so it won't cost us much. I figured I would just let Suminyu take the blame. Meanwhile, Suminyu, who was busy scolding someone again, suddenly sneezed. The dust is terrible, right? I should definitely wear a mask next time. When us 3 siblings finally returned home, workers were clearing trash from the guest bedroom. 2 others in the kitchen were replacing the old sink. Yi Zixi and Ye Ji were completely amazed. A tiny shoe rack had been installed right by the entrance. It looked too narrow to hold even a single pair of shoes, but the moment they pulled it open, they realized all the shoes were cleverly stored at a diagonal angle. When the cabinet door shut tight, that slanted angle maximized the interior, saving a ton of space. Even though the shoe rack itself was quite small, it was perfectly enough to store the whole family's footwear. Finally, we wouldn't have to shove our shoes under the beds anymore. The peeling old walls were covered in fresh wallpaper, and the worn-out sofa was replaced to perfectly match the new home aesthetic. There was also a sleek glass coffee table now. That little corner desk wasn't thrown away, though. It still held a delicate vase filled with freshly picked carnations. Our main living room had a single window. In the past, it always had heavy curtains, but now they were completely replaced with pure white Venetian blinds. The entire setup looked so much simpler and cleaner. Bathed in the natural sunlight, the warm-toned living space felt incredibly cozy and welcoming. Suminyu suddenly stepped out of the guest bedroom, spotted me, and got ridiculously excited. She dragged me by the arm like an absolute monster. "Come quick and check out the guest bedroom renovation. I can personally guarantee that you will be totally blown away." Ye Zixi and Ye Ji rushed inside too, eager to see how their shared room had transformed. When they finally saw the finished product, my 2 sisters' eyes nearly popped out of their heads. The entire color scheme was a fresh, vibrant ocean blue. Everything inside was elevated with solid wooden planks to create deep tatami storage space. Without a bulky wardrobe, the room felt incredibly open and spacious. It was still essentially a bunk bed setup, but the top bunk ran horizontally, while the bottom was vertical. A soft mattress rested directly on the wooden planks. Beside it, they built sturdy stairs to the top bunk, which were a huge upgrade from the old straight ladder. Every single step on that staircase concealed a built-in drawer underneath. My sisters could easily use them to store their heavy textbooks and other personal belongings. Tucked neatly into the opposite corner, a compact little study desk had been custom-built just for them. Both sisters could sit on opposite sides without disturbing each other. This cramped space was transformed into an open, gorgeous room packed with all the essential functions. She truly lived up to her solid reputation as a famous interior designer. "This drawer can be pulled straight out and used as a mini bookshelf," Suminyu proudly explained to us, smoothly sliding a deep drawer out from underneath the new staircase. "You can keep your books standing completely straight in this space." She then gently patted the elevated wooden platform and turned her focus to Ye Ji. "Your older brother told me you love drawing, so this entire area is for you. You can sit right here and draw without ever worrying about making a mess." Ye Ji's little eyes sparkled like absolute stars. Bursting with excitement, she yelled, "Thank you, Suminyu.
And thank you so much, brother.
I finally have my very own space. I can draw whenever I want now." Seeing my little sister's glowing smile made Suminyu swell with pride. She gently patted Ye Jai's head. She was genuinely satisfied seeing our reaction. Suminyu then leaned in close to me and whispered, "Just this little corner alone, skipping my expensive design fee, cost well over 50,000 yuan in raw materials. If I hadn't practically begged my suppliers, 20,000 yuan wouldn't have even covered half of this renovation." Well, that was exactly what I expected from designer Su. Nobody else could nail this level of perfection. Su Minyu immediately felt her head swell with pride. "Honestly, if your budget wasn't so tight, I swear I would have completely ripped up your floor tiles and totally rebuilt every single wall." I turned to look at the designer standing right beside me and casually said, "Whenever you have some free time, I'll definitely treat you to a nice meal." I heard the Moonlit Night series just launched. Seeing that massive look of eager anticipation light up her eyes, I simply nodded. "2 sets, I will send them to you." I lazily finished my final task. Su Minyu finally left with her crew, despite my parents begging her to stay for dinner. Once all the outsiders were gone, our newly reunited family started discussing what we should eat for dinner. Because my parents had been wildly busy overseeing the home renovation, all day, they hadn't found a single moment to buy groceries, or even cook some rice. "Let's just take the kids out night to enjoy a really good meal." Mother Yi gently reached out, grasped my hand, placed it warmly in her palm, and softly asked, "Xiaoken, do you like eating hot pot?" Honestly, I just wasn't used to anyone getting this physically close to me. But I paused for a second and decided not to pull my hand away. I looked at Mother Yi and answered her question. I had actually only eaten hot pot once in my life. That was 2 years ago, back when I threw a party at my very own hot pot restaurant. The food was actually great, but the prices were just way too high. Wealthy elites rarely dine out for hot pot anyway, so my business completely shut down in 2 months. After that failure, I never ate hot pot again. Yizixi immediately chimed in with a bright smile. "Then let's all go grab hot pot. That little restaurant down by the crossroads is incredibly good, and their meat is super fresh. Besides, little brother called in the crew to renovate our house today, so we should celebrate." The decision was made instantly. We all grabbed our jackets, and our family of 5 happily walked over to the local hot pot restaurant. Through the entire walk there, Mother Yi proudly held onto my hand. I couldn't help but notice her attitude towards me was unbelievably gentle. Maybe this warmth is just how it naturally is between a biological mother and son. Once inside the restaurant, we grabbed a large corner table. After settling down, Father Yi handed the heavy menu to me, insisting that I order whatever I wanted. I immediately passed the menu over to Yi Zixi. "I'll just stick to the eating part," I joked. My family burst out laughing. Grinning, Yi Zixi eagerly started ordering our food. Once we finished our massive dinner, my parents and little sister were exhausted and immediately headed home to rest. Strolling back later that night, the city streets were glowing brightly with neon lights. Every single little shop had sales reps outside shouting their evening promotions. Walking alongside my older sister, I casually brought up a random topic. "Why are you still stuck in your 3rd year of high school? The background check the Mu family gave me clearly stated you were heading off to college this year. You should have. But you ignored the application and chose to repeat a year. No matter what grandfather's financial situation looks like right now, Ye Zixi really should have graduated college early instead of doing this." "True," repeating a year. At my question, Ye Zixi simply lowered her eyes and fell completely silent. Then, forcing a bitter little laugh, she told me there were things I was bound to discover eventually, so hiding them was pointless. "Do you know why the Ye family went bankrupt?" I just shook my head. She said it was tied to the family's financial ruin. Ye Zixi gently patted my head, treating me like her little brother. "When our older sister worked at that restaurant, someone took revenge on the Yi family, driving them into bankruptcy. Back then, the Yi family was considered incredibly wealthy, but their success had only started 10 or 15 years ago. They simply could not compete with massive legacy families who had been dominating the business world for generations. Ji Shiwei watched her family build their fortune, and she never acted like a spoiled daughter who expected everything handed to her. Instead of taking the easy road, she chose to push herself harder. She wanted the skills to survive entirely on her own, even without the family wealth. She wanted to prove her own worth and create real value. Her ultimate goal was to help expand the family corporate empire in the future. So, ever since high school, she spent every long vacation taking extra classes or working part-time jobs just to earn her own pocket money. But unknowingly, she crossed paths with someone she never should have messed with. Mu Xuan always blamed our older sister for the bankruptcy, claiming her obsession with wandering outside caused the family's financial disaster. The psychological pressure on her was immense, and they constantly spoke to her like garbage. Yi Zixi took a deep breath, her heart heavy with grief. Mu Xuan's anger, his rage grew worse every single day. He actually tried to hit our older sister. Trying to protect her, Ye Zixi got shoved hard by Mu Xuan, and her head smashed right into the heavy wooden closet. The doctors confirmed it was a severe concussion. Her high school finals were just around the corner. While her body seemed fine, She constantly battled random waves of nausea and blinding dizziness. Ultimately, during her final exams, her academic performance completely tanked. Mom, Dad, and her teachers all advised her to repeat the year. I pursed my lips as I listened, then finally asked, "Don't you hate Mushuan for this?" Yi Zixi just lowered her eyes and sighed. After all, he was our pampered little brother for 17 years. Families shouldn't hold bitter grudges. But honestly, I never imagined he would abandon us so ruthlessly. I completely understood why she was mocking herself. 17 years of giving him genuine love only to be stabbed in the back. A financial betrayal hurts, but emotional betrayal shatters you completely. She suddenly looked right at me, her eyes glowing with genuine soft warmth. We are family now, so there is no need to keep score over every little thing. Yi Zixi gently continued, "We always treated you well, without expecting anything in return, simply because you are our family. We just hope you will fully accept us someday." Later that night, I chose the inner bed and pulled the thick blanket over myself. This new mattress was incredibly comfortable. Finally, I wasn't forced to sleep on a hard wooden plank anymore. I switched on the small hanging fan, sat back down, and dialed Lu Ruian. The moment the call connected, a soft chuckle echoed through the speaker. "Big boss, what are your orders? Missing me already?" "I was just bored," I replied casually. Growing up, I never really felt a sense of belonging anywhere. I always kept my true feelings buried deep down. I never said things like "I miss you." If I needed something important, I just asked directly. So, when I reached out to her simply because I was bored, it genuinely meant I missed her. Lu Ruian burst into bright laughter, her eyes probably crinkling with amusement. "Well, big boss, are we talking a 5-cent conversation or a $5 one? Are you seriously charging me for this too?" The big boss personally reached out to talk to me, so I better make a profit. Suppressing my own laughter, I fired back, "Then I should probably charge you by the hour." $5 an hour. Don't I even get a friendly discount?" Lu Ruian checked her watch playfully. "How about 500 for 2 hours? I laughed so hard that my chest literally ached. You really know how to run a business. Anyway, all documents are signed. We send them to the notary tomorrow. We should get approval in 3 days. "We will," Lu Ruian replied, pausing her work. She leaned back in her office chair, giving me her full attention. I casually agreed, and then started telling her all about the crazy events of tonight. Hearing the family drama, Lu Ruian couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Are you getting scared?" she teased. Her question sounded a lot more like a definitive statement. It was as if she understood my hidden emotions way better than I did. "You're terrified of real family connection." There was a time I desperately craved that sense of belonging. Dad's entire focus was glued to my sisters. He cared intensely about their academic success and business training. I was always the forgotten child standing in the background. Sure, the Mew family gave me expensive clothes and luxury items, but I desperately wanted real recognition. I fought to rank first in my class during every single exam. I dominated every extra training session they arranged, praying why I would finally earn Mom and Dad's praise. But my foolish hope was always shattered instantly. By the time I turned 8, I finally figured out why my sisters studied corporate business while I was placed in entirely different classes. They were analyzing financial reports, while I was only learning foreign languages. I was completely locked out of any real business knowledge. That's because I was nothing more than a strategic pawn for an arranged marriage. I was brutally conditioned to stay perfectly quiet and know my place. In the end, I was just another piece of merchandise traded for corporate benefits. I completely abandoned any hope for a real family connection. So, when the Yi family started showing me genuine care, my alarm bells rang. I assumed they were completely crazy. I spent my time racking my brain trying to expose their hidden, malicious intentions, but honestly, it was just my own stubborn rebellion. For so long, my voice was completely silenced, and my thoughts felt hopelessly tangled. You are completely worthy of genuine love, and you have the absolute courage to face whatever changes come your way. There is nothing to fear. Lu Ruian's calm voice instantly brought peace to my chaotic heart. 2 years ago, when the Yi family unexpectedly declared bankruptcy, I finally discovered that I was not the Mew family's biological son. After I confessed the dark truth to Lu Ruian, she brushed it off like it was nothing. "Whatever your surname is, and whatever happens in the future, I will always stand by you." She literally begged me to leave the toxic Mew household. Her soft, unwavering voice echoed through the phone. "Xiao Chen, just keep moving forward. I'll always have your back. You are my ultimate trump card, even if I have to risk absolutely everything." Maybe my harsh warning that day actually worked, because for a while Mushuan quietly attended his classes without causing trouble. Soon enough, Ren Qingyan spotted Lin Jiajun and Sun Yahan at the banquet, and he was incredibly shocked. "What are you doing here? Aren't you deep in the Mu family camp? Are you here spying on the enemy?" Lin Jiajun always backed up his brother flawlessly. "Just passing through," he replied smoothly, and then he casually answered Sun Yahan's burning question. "The 2 precious daughters of the Mu family have finally returned." I obviously had to come live stream this exact moment for Xiao Chen. Excitement flashing in his eyes, he pulled out his phone, ready to broadcast. always willing to gather intelligence for me. After Shen Mingxi walked inside, his sharp eyes scanned the entire room. His expression was deadly serious. He quickly stepped forward, about to say something important, when suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the massive banquet hall. It came directly from Mu Yaowei's microphone on the center stage. The crowd turned to look. Mu Xuan stood there wearing a crisp white suit, smiling like a pampered little prince, with absolute arrogant pride. Lin Jiajun immediately pulled up a video call to me, whispering excitedly into the microphone. The real show is about to begin. The party is officially starting. He carefully panned his camera, giving me a full 360 view of the room. Guess what crazy gift your furious sister is going to present? Probably nothing good, he joked. I was sitting quietly at the study desk in my room, the warm light from the table lamp, casting shadows across my face. A cold sparkle flashed in my eyes and a faint, mocking smile tugged at my lips. I'm done talking to you. I need to eat dinner. If something hilarious actually happens, just record the chaos and send it to me. Mission accepted. Lin Jiajun saluted into the lens. Instead of ending our call, he switched to his camera app and hit record. He wanted to capture every single second of the drama, so I wouldn't miss a thing. Mu Yaowei delivered a painfully long, bragging opening speech on the main stage. Xu Jingyi stood right beside him, her face twisting with emotional expressions, trying her hardest to sell the illusion of a deep, loving father and son bond to the crowd. Or rather, the perfect mother and son relationship. When his boring speech finally wrapped up, Mu Yaowei proudly handed the microphone over to Mu Xuan, urging him to greet the wealthy guests. I am Mu Xuan, he started. When I first finding out the parents who raised me for 17 years weren't mine, I was shocked too. That speech was spectacular, probably ghostwritten by a professional and memorized, just for this moment. He pursed his lips, in pure disgust, and rolled his eyes. Shen Mingxi wasn't even listening. Honestly, you and I both know hardly anyone there cared about the life he had lived for 17 years. Or how the Mu family finally managed to track him down. Everyone just showed up because it was a massive Mu family party. Business collaboration or not, the Mu family was absolute gold. Being in their position, they simply had to show respect. Lin Jiajun held up his phone, recording the whole scene, switching hands whenever his arm got tired. Someone approached Lin Jiajun and muttered quietly into his ear. Lin Jiajun instinctively glanced over, suddenly realizing just how close they were standing. He quickly snapped to head back and handed the phone over. Even though they were technically engaged, both had only just become adults. Their marriage was a childhood arrangement, a strict business alliance. They grew up treating each other like siblings. There was absolutely no romantic spark between them. At least, Lin Jiajun always thought so. He watched as the guy pressed his lips together and stepped away. Shen Mingxi offered a tiny, knowing smile. His presence was overwhelming, making his childhood friend act totally shy. Meanwhile, up on stage, he barely got through a few lines. Shen Mingxi had just grabbed his phone when a sudden aggressive roar of car engines erupted outside. The banquet hall was on the ground floor, but it was buried deep inside the hotel. Engine noise shouldn't have reached them at all. Mu Shuyuan immediately stopped his speech. Everyone stared at the entrance in complete confusion. Then, with a massive deafening crash, a pitch-black Apollo sports car smashed right through the heavy doors. People started screaming, scattering everywhere in absolute panic. The long table covered in desserts and champagne took a direct hit. Glasses shattered on the floor, instantly turning the fancy party into total chaos. Mu Yaowei, who was playing the perfect loving father, instantly dropped the act. His face darkened as he glared at the vehicle. The sports car screeched to a halt mid-hall. Suddenly, a sheepdog leaped from the passenger seat, sprinting straight toward the stage, aiming right for Mu Shuyuan. Terrified of dogs, he let out a panicked scream, blindly stumbling backward until he slipped and crashed to the ground. Ah! Get away from me! His shaking hands and legs were wildly flailing around. But everyone else could clearly see the border collie had actually stopped 3 feet away. It never even touched him. Right then, the heavy door on the spore's driver's side swung open, and a tall girl stepped out. She wore loose, casual clothes. With long, elegant fingers, she casually slid the sunglasses down her nose, leaning against the hood of the car with ultimate lazy confidence. Her entire vibe screamed pure, stubborn rebellion. She had just utterly destroyed their elegant party, yet she didn't look sorry in the slightest. Over on the sidelines, Liang Bo flashed a highly amused, completely careless smirk. Brother, why are your words so harsh? Your sister brought you this beautiful dog as a heartfelt gift. If you don't want it, that's completely fine, but why scream at it so rudely? Honestly, there was nothing heartfelt about her grand entrance. She was clearly here just to ruin the night. She pointed a single finger at the border collie, and the dog immediately bolted back to her side like an obedient soldier. It sat perfectly in front of her, happily wagging its tail. Mu Yaowei's face turned violently red with rage. Are you out of your mind? Who on earth gave you permission to drive in here? What behavior is this? Grab your stupid dog, get back in your car, and get out of here right this second. Mu Yulu casually loaded the border collie into her sports car, clicking her tongue playfully. Dad, why are you getting so furious? Your daughter was abroad for 2 whole years. Did you miss me? Or do you only love your brand new son now? Mu Yaowei's voice dropped dangerously low. Do not force me to say it a third time. Acting perfectly innocent, Mu Yulu threw the car in reverse and sped off. The older sister, Ningxue, appeared out of nowhere and immediately stepped in, trying to calm down the panicked guests. My little sister is immature and gave you all a fright. I've arranged another banquet hall right next door. Please, follow me. Thanks to Meng Ningxue expertly damage controlling the situation, gave them some face, politely ignoring the absolute disaster that just happened. Watched a good play. Lin Jiajun grabbed his phone, stopped recording, and sent it to me. Believe me, the footage was incredibly spectacular. Mu Shuan's parents dragged him straight into a private restroom. The tension in the air was incredibly suffocating, making it hard to breathe. He gripped both of his hands tightly together. His voice was shaking, incredibly quiet, and trembling violently as he apologized. I just panicked out there. I've been terrified of dogs my whole life. Mu Yaowei stared at him with pure rage. In front of the city's elite, you single-handedly destroyed our Mu family's reputation. Mu Shuan's eyes instantly welled up, turning bright red in shock. Growing up, he was practically treated like royalty, utterly spoiled and pampered. Nobody in his life had ever dared to scream at him quite like this. Feeling entirely wronged, he stared at his own biological father. But that was my sister's fault. Before he could even finish his sentence, Mu Yaowei snapped back in an absolutely freezing tone. If I had ever known you were this incredibly useless, I never would have brought you back. He honestly couldn't comprehend what he did wrong. Mu Yulu crashed the party, so why was he taking all the heat? Desperate, he looked over at Chen Jingyu with pleading, desperate eyes. People always say a mother and son share one heart, so surely she would defend him. But Chen Jingyu's face was completely ice cold. Even her expressions were no better than her husband's. Her voice sounded utterly dead and hollow. Do you realize how many people laughed at us today? If you pull a stunt like this again, I will personally ship you straight back home, immediately. Mu Yaowei threw one last disgusting glare at Mu Shuyuan, then walked out with his wife to manage the disaster outside. Instantly, every ounce of strength completely drained from Mu Shuyuan's trembling body. He collapsed straight onto the hard floor, letting out a bitter, self-mocking laugh. No wonder Mu Chen had left the family so easily back then. The guy didn't even pack his clothes. He just grabbed his essential documents, tossed them in a bag, and vanished from the Mu family in under an hour. Chen Jingyu brought me back, but maybe I shouldn't be thrilled about it, Mu Shuan thought, taking a long, shaky breath before standing up, his face completely devoid of any emotion. He dragged himself out the door looking entirely like a walking corpse. Family affection? That completely didn't matter anymore. He was living a life of pure luxury now, a true rich man's life. Honestly, that wealth was all he really wanted. Now, a stark contrast to the toxic Mu family drama, my new life with the Yi family was full of warmth. Dinner featured my absolute favorite swordfish. Yi Zixi was giggling happily as she ate, while Yi, someone clearly had some big news to share. My classmate's older sister works at a massive film and TV company. Turning web novels into short dramas is super trendy right now. She actually told me I have a really good look, and said if I wanted a cool part-time gig, she could totally recommend me as a short drama actor. Father Yi frowned. Is that even reliable? The entertainment industry is incredibly shady right now. A lot of those shady recruiters are just running total scams. First, they demand steep training fees, promise you guaranteed roles, and then absolutely nothing else. Yi's father used to be a sharp businessman. He'd heard countless horror stories about these entertainment traps, and he strongly believed most agencies were just massive frauds. Honestly, Ye Zixi wasn't entirely convinced herself either. After all, in today's digital age, there was definitely no shortage of elaborate scam artists everywhere. I really just wanted to get your opinions first. If you guys think it's okay, I'll go check out the interview. If they actually demand any upfront training fees, I'll walk out immediately. I honestly think it's a great idea, I chimed in, fully supporting her. I've carefully looked at my sister's stunning features before. Who knows? She might actually blow up and get poached by top talent scouts. And even if she doesn't get famous organically, I can always pull some strings behind the scenes to guarantee her success anyway. Just give it a shot. Who knows, you might actually find acting super fun. Plus, it gives you a solid backup option. I gave her some extra encouragement. Yi Zixi giggled brightly. All right, I'll trust your judgment. Let's try it tomorrow. Xiao Chen, do you want to tag along with your sister? It's definitely better than rotting away at home doing absolutely nothing, so I nodded and told her, let's head out after lunch tomorrow. I want to sleep in a bit. Yi Zixi smiled warmly at me. Later, after finishing my delicious dinner, I packed up at the kitchen waste and went downstairs to toss it. Worried it wasn't safe, Yi Zixi tagged along. Sure, we went out to dump the garbage, but between you and me, we were just using it as an excuse to buy some delicious milk tea. We had just reached the intersection when a flashy sports car sped up and stopped right in front of us. Spotting that Apollo supercar Yukos, I froze, my eyes narrowing slightly. A hint of danger flashed in my eyes and my smile vanished instantly. Muyulu stepped out of the vehicle, resting both hands on the roof. He smirked at me and said, "Well, if it isn't my quiet little brother. It's only been a few days since you left the Mu family and you already look so pathetic." I curled my lips. "Aren't you the young master? Isn't that enough? Did you come all this way just to check up on me? Why so tense?" "Yeah, little brother, I truly care about you." Muyulu's words held zero sincerity. He strolled around the front of the car, stepping with absolute careless freedom. "It's been well over a year since we last met. I actually prepared a very special gift just for you." He swung the passenger door open, and a border collie leapt out, trotting right over to him before sitting down calmly. I hadn't even watched the video Lin Jiajun sent me yet, but I already knew that Muyulu always loved his cars more than his own life. Yet, this limited edition sports car had countless scratches. A massive chunk of the paint was completely scraped off, and there were several glaring dents and awful stains scattered across it. Looking at this mess, anyone could instantly guess exactly what he had been up to. Since he didn't stop anywhere else, this dog was definitely brought straight from Renjingyan. Muyulu leaned against the passenger door. The arrogant young master hadn't changed one bit. "You hate second-hand things, but this dog was bought just for you. I just took it to a show and nothing else. You aren't that petty, right?" I laughed and slowly stepped toward Muyulu. I kept staring straight into his eyes until I was standing barely half a step away from him. My tone was deadpan, hiding a sharp edge. I told them Muyulu was an absolute expert at dealing out trouble. I despised little dogs more than anything else. Honestly, it was pretty unclear if I was referring to the fluffy border collie at his feet, or if I meant the very person standing right in front of me. We just locked eyes, glaring at each other. Yi Zixi stood there like a gentle breeze. She was completely unfazed by this intensely toxic standoff. The nearby milk tea shop was getting ready to close its doors for the night. Muyulu finally noticed Yi Zixi, shooting her an incredibly disgusted look. A broke girl from a completely bankrupt family. Does she really even deserve to speak to you? Ye Zixi looked completely peaceful, showing humility. "Xiao Qiqin is my little brother," she said. "Whatever bitter grudge you have against him is my business now." Muyulu let out a laugh dripping with pure mockery. "You are simply not worthy of being his sister." I snapped back without a shred of mercy. "If she is not worthy, does that mean you are?" I dragged out that last word. Surprisingly, Muyulu did not get mad. He just leaned against the car, smiling smugly. "We spent 17 whole years together, after all." I rolled my eyes. "What exactly are you doing here?" I honestly could not tell what was truth and what was a total lie anymore. It felt like a sick joke. "My actual home is right here, so just go back." Muyulu said carelessly, "If you refuse to come with me tonight, Ningxue will track you down next time. You know your older sister does not speak to me this easily." I quickly snapped back at Muyulu. "That is definitely not my money." I glanced down at the soft fur of the border collie, happily wagging its tail. Reaching down, I grabbed the dog by its collar and forcefully shoved away Muyulu, who was still leaning against the car. I completely ignored the guy who was just digging for pointless drama. The second I turned to look at Ye Zixi, my expression completely softened. Hearing the word sister, Ye Zixi gently placed her hand on my shoulder. "Come on, let us get out of here." Watching us walk away, Muyulu pulled out his phone and dialed. "Your dad, he has another sister now, and he really does not care about you." He snapped the second the call connected. On the other line, Munyang Shui stayed completely silent for a long moment. Then, acting entirely unbothered, she told him to go back and fetch it himself. Miao Yilu was absolutely furious. He glared out at the crumbling, outdated residential area. This house was so incredibly tiny and completely broken down. What could possibly be worth remembering here? Is her brain that much smarter than ours? Yet, I haven't seen you visit often. Mu Ningsu stayed perfectly calm, completely tuning out her sister's sudden outburst. "He's stuck in a rundown house now. Isn't this entirely your fault? If not for Muyulu's nasty plotting, the Yi family wouldn't have gone completely bankrupt. Even if he did return to them, he'd still just be a young master draped in designer brands. He would have had a luxury car to cruise around in. Why would their whole family suffer?" Muyulu ground her teeth. While committing those dirty deeds, she fanned the flames. But when the secret leaked out, she pinned the entire blame on her. "Mu Ningsu, this girl is getting more ruthlessly cunning every single day. You better keep that arrogant attitude, otherwise when you finally crawl back to beg Mu Chen to return, he won't even give you the time of day. And I will get to enjoy watching the show." With that, she instantly hung up. Mu Ningsu just slowly lowered her phone down. Her slender fingers lightly tapped the desk, creating a slow, rhythmic beat. As she analyzed things, her face remained perfectly blank, radiating the heavy, suffocating aura of a top corporate executive. The manager standing across the desk bowed his head, too terrified to speak. Meanwhile, my sister and I bought milk tea. Strolling back home in the evening breeze, I realized Muyulu hadn't ruined our mood. Yi Zixi studied my face for a long moment. She thought about it, then calmly pointed out, "It seems the Mu family's second young lady actually cares a whole lot about you." "No need to test the waters," I replied. "I have zero intention of going with her. I left the Mu family, and I'm not looking back. I barely escaped that toxic cage. I'm not stupid enough to jump right back into the fire. As for Muyulu caring about me, maybe a tiny bit. But I simply cannot stomach the so-called affection of an absolute maniac. When I was just 5 years old, I didn't understand the world. I just craved the warmth and security of a family. When kids bullied me in kindergarten, I ran straight to Muyulu to complain. Normal logic says a sister would help her little brother and march into school to teach those bullies a harsh lesson. Instead, Muyulu dragged me to learn taekwondo, claiming that if I became capable, nobody would bother me. Then, she personally sparred with a 5-year-old beginner. She showed absolutely zero mercy. She actually my bone, leaving me bedridden in the hospital for 3 agonizing months. And during those entire 3 months, only the servant Ruyan bothered to look after me. She'd rush back after classes just to keep me company, but the real culprit never showed her face. When I finally recovered and was discharged, I saw Muyulu again. She felt zero remorse. She confidently complained that I was just too weak, and seriously suggested I learn Sanda next time. Who on earth wants a sister like that? Anyway, the sauce cart plan was going perfectly. Father Yi had us scrub the cart spotless, prepping everything for our grand opening tomorrow. The familiar neighborhood folks will make it super easy for him to gather honest feedback, so we can constantly improve. The day after tomorrow, Monday, he will officially launch the food stall. He plans to sell right near City No. 1 Middle School. Yi Zixi raised her milk tea high, and we all happily clinked our cups. Wishing Mom incredible business success, Father Yi let out a happy sigh. Xiaoqin really is our family's lucky star. Every single part of our lives is heading in a wonderful direction now. Back when Musuyan lived here, every day was filled with endless complaints. A toxic gloom hung over the entire house. It felt like a lifeless machine running on a strict program. After I finally came back, I helped my new family tremendously, acting like a spark, pushing everyone to imagine better possibilities. The complete renovation of our whole house also happened because of me. All those old, damaged, broken marks were completely hidden away. Life suddenly took on a fresh, vibrant look. Everyone was buzzing with enthusiasm. To elevate this family even further, we were all grinding hard in our own unique directions. And yet we remained tightly connected to one another. I lowered my eyes, smiling. You and I know how rare it is to get rewarded for giving. Honestly, if you look back at my miserable time trapped with the Mew family since we shared no blood ties, there was absolutely no warmth between us. Honestly, you only had to look at Mu Ningxu and Muyulu to realize the truth. Despite having the Mu family blood in their veins, they were still distant. He felt zero attachment to his own wife. Now that Mu Xun, the biological son, had finally returned to the Mu family, I seriously feared he wouldn't get any real love either. Mere blood ties could never redeem the coldness of the Mu family. The Mu parents were completely heartless themselves. They were thrown together in a loveless arranged marriage and ended up raising 3 emotionless machines. It is a simple fact that when parents are utterly miserable together, their children are bound to suffer the exact same fate. That is the harsh truth Jiajun shared with me. Yi Zixi suddenly spoke up, suggesting we video call our older sister. She said our family of 4 simply could not leave Yi Shiwei out. Besides, she still had no clue about the ongoing house situation. We should totally make her jealous by showing it on screen, Yi Zixi joked with a grin. She quickly pulled out her phone and started a video call with Yi Shiwei. To our surprise, she answered almost immediately on the other end. Yi Shiwei already had foundation on her face. She was right in the middle of doing her makeup, clearly getting ready to head out. Yi Zixi immediately teased her, asking where she was going, looking so incredibly dressed up. She added that normally, whenever she came home for the holidays, I never once saw her wearing makeup. She asked if she was sneaking out on a late date. Yi Shiwei instantly saw right through her little teasing trick. She explained that tomorrow was her school anniversary. She and her classmates had put together a special performance, so she was just testing out her makeup look beforehand. Then Ye Shiwei asked where we all were. Yi Zixi just laughed out loud and quickly flipped her phone camera around. She showed her everyone in the room, and we all took turns saying hello. Yi Shiwei let out a huge gasp, asking if this was really our house. Whenever the topic of renovation came up, my father would always get visibly excited. Let me tell you some massive news from 2 days ago. Didn't you always admire Su Menyu? She is actually the one who designed this house. Ye Shiwei sounded totally thrilled. After all, Su Menyu had become incredibly famous at just 16 years old. Back then, our family had a decent amount of money, but we still could not afford to hire Su Menyu. After we eventually went bankrupt, she completely let go of that dream. What is even crazier is that she had fully buried all those old memories too. She never imagined that her quiet wish would actually come true now. I took a slow sip of my milk tea, chewing the boba pearls while lost in thought. I realized Ye Shiwei really adored Su Menyu. She honestly saw her as an absolute idol. Why did my sister choose traditional Chinese medicine instead of studying interior design? I grabbed the phone and stood up, telling her I would show off our newly renovated living room. Then I walked straight into the bedroom. I kept hearing constant gasps of pure amazement coming through the phone. I gave her a full virtual tour of the brand new house. Yi Shiwei had this massive, completely frozen smile glued to her face. She absolutely loved the stunning design. Su Minyu's layout changes made the whole place feel so incredibly spacious. She really loved the elegant blue style too. Honestly, Ye Shiwei was totally acting like a massive fangirl. She unconsciously blurted out praises for the brilliant designer, Su Minyu. If Su Minyu heard that, she would definitely brag about it to me. Suddenly, Ye Shiwei tightly furrowed her brows. She said renovating this must have cost at least 80 or 90,000. Since Su Minyu is my friend, she probably waived her design fee. Still, the gorgeous soft furnishings definitely were not cheap. Spending 20,000 was basically nothing to me. There was absolutely no need to put extra pressure on my older sister. Yi Shi Wei let out a deep sigh. I instantly knew exactly what she was about to say. I told her not to feel embarrassed. After she wrapped up her graduation project this month, her new internship would officially start next month. She promised to treat me to a huge meal when she returned. I just smirked and told her to hurry back and experience our amazing, newly customized home. We chatted for a few more minutes before hanging up the phone. Yi Shiwei was completely stunned by the updates. She never imagined that being back at school for barely a week would bring such massive, beautiful changes to our family home. She fully understood that all this incredible luck was entirely because of me. Ever since I got a brand new bed, my sleep quality had improved dramatically. Then, I glanced down at the flashing caller ID. It was Chen. I immediately rejected the call, but he just kept relentlessly ringing me back. I quickly waved at everyone to show them I was completely fine. Then, I furiously answered the damn phone. I snapped, demanding to know what they actually wanted. A low-key dark green Mercedes was parked right outside our residential area. Mu Qiu Ningshu stared into the dark night through her car window. She said she was downstairs and demanded I come down for a serious talk, threatening to drag the older lady into her car if I refused. Mu Ningshu's voice was totally ice-cold, sending absolute shivers down my spine. I instantly panicked, realizing she might have bumped into my adoptive mother. I quickly grabbed my keys and bolted straight outside. I knew exactly how Mu Ningshu operated. Her methods were always incredibly twisted and vicious. My poor mother would never stand a chance against someone like her. If my mother actually stepped inside that car, there was zero telling what crazy things that absolute lunatic might say to her. She would probably try forcing me to return to the Mu family. I frantically threw on my shoes and rushed straight downstairs. I ran right into my mother. I took a deep breath, slowed my frantic pace, and forced my usual casual smile. I asked why she closed her stall so early today and how the morning business went. She seemed highly eager to prepare even more goods for tomorrow's market stall. I gently told her to head upstairs and get some rest first. Meanwhile, Mu Ningshu was silently watching our entire exchange from a distance. The moment she saw me marching fiercely toward her, she slowly shifted her cold gaze away. Her driver instantly started the engine and drove right off. I stood frozen at the gate, watching the sleek Mercedes vanish into the night. A massive question mark popped into my confused brain. I whipped out my phone and dialed Mu Ningshu immediately. My voice sounded totally harsh. I asked if she came all this way just to talk, yet drove off the second I came down. Her tone was eerily calm. She said she suddenly lost the mood to chat. She calmly announced she would pick me up for dinner tomorrow night before abruptly hanging up. Exactly as I always suspected, absolutely no one in that Mu family was normal. Later on, after finishing dinner, I quickly changed into fresh clothes, grabbed my small backpack, and tagged, along with Ye Zixi, for her upcoming acting audition. While sitting quietly on the bus, I glanced at her right beside me, wondering how long it had been since she bought anything new. Her white shirt had completely faded into a dull yellow, totally losing its original crispness. She only owned about 3 or 4 casual outfits, and all of them were severely worn out from endless washing. Yi Zixi offered me a slightly embarrassed smile, explaining that she honestly didn't care much about dressing up or looking fancy. But during the prime years of youth, you really should look your absolute best. She had sacrificed and saved up almost all her hard-earned money for Mu Shun. She never kept a single dime for herself. She used to dream about working tirelessly just to buy insurance for her precious younger brother. Now she simply claimed she had absolutely no regrets about her choices, even though the ungrateful Mu family coldly tossed her aside. At least her conscience remained totally clear, knowing she had never once treated Mu Shun badly. Honestly, the members of this Yi family are easily the strangest group of people I have ever met in my life. Did Mu Shun somehow save all their lives in a past life or something? Anyway, when heading to an audition at a major company, you should at least wear decent clothes. If you show up looking so messy, you will naturally feel extremely insecure and weak inside. We finally arrived at our bustling destination. First things first, we walked into a nice brand store to pick out some proper clothes. But the absolute second we stepped inside the shop, a painfully sharp, mocking voice echoed out. Well, if it isn't young Master Mu. He used to exclusively wear haute couture, but look at his ragged old clothes now. I almost didn't even recognize you. Zhou Qi's face instantly flushed bright red. Every single time we bumped into each other, we would inevitably get into a massive, heated argument. The Zhou family ran multiple businesses, so they were definitely wealthy, but nowhere near elite status. Zhou Qi was incredibly bitter and jealous of my perfect grades, so naturally, our relationship had always been completely toxic. She absolutely hated my guts, but was too terrified of my high status to do anything. But unfortunately, my life was completely different now. I was suddenly exposed as just an adopted orphan of the wealthy Miu family. And now, they had officially kicked me to the curb. She sneered, asking what I had left to be so arrogant about, since I wasn't young Master Mu anymore. I snapped back, saying if she knew I left the Mu family, she should definitely know that I was no longer tied to their stupid rules. She warned that the real young master, Mu Xun, would never let me off the hook easily. I just smirked, pulling my lips into a sarcastic fake smile, completely brushing off Zhou Qi's incredibly venomous glare. I calmly pulled an outfit straight off the rack that perfectly matched my vision and handed it directly to Ye Zixi. I told her this style suited her cool vibe perfectly. Ye Zixi examined the fabric curiously while I gave her a quick reassuring wink, gesturing silently that she had absolutely nothing to worry about. Zhou Qi scoffed loudly, staring me down in pure disgust. She called me a pathetic, bankrupt loser reeking of cheap poverty, proudly reminding me those clothes cost thousands. Can you even afford to buy these? You are just trying things on, not actually buying. If you get the clothes dirty, how will you pay for the damages? I said casually. Whether I have money or not is none of your business. Stop insulting me and ruining my mood here. After dealing with the mental games of Mu Ningsui and Mu Yulu, my tongue was sharper than ever. Back then, I used to care about the Mu family's reputation and honor, but now I did not care at all. Anyone who dared to provoke me would get exactly what they deserved. Josie snapped at me in pure anger, telling me to just wait. Leaving a harsh threat behind, he turned around and stormed off. Ye Zixi finally came out after changing her clothes. I looked at her and smiled with complete satisfaction. That outfit really looks amazing on you. This film and television company is not very big, and it seems like it was just established recently. Ye Zixi followed the instructions and went in for her acting audition. I waited outside for her, staring up at the electric sign for a while. I narrowed my eyes, wondering why this place looked so incredibly familiar to me. The front desk staff guided me over to the waiting area. With Ye Zixi's beautiful outfit today, matching her striking looks and great personality, she might just land a good role. After waiting for about half an hour, a very familiar voice caught my attention. You again? I placed my water cup down and turned around to look. It was Josie once again. His eyes were full of pure mockery. The pampered young master has fallen to this pathetic state now, but I strongly advise you to just leave. I rested my chin on my hand and looked right back at him with amusement. This is my uncle's company. With just one word from me, you guys can completely forget about dreaming of getting any roles here. I pretended to be lost in deep thought. So, this entertainment company belongs to your uncle? Josie sneered proudly. Now that you know, why haven't you left yet? If you apologize to my face right now, I might actually consider giving her a part. Just as he finished speaking, a tall, middle-aged man walked right out of the office. Josie quickly ran over to him. Chen Ziqiang looked at his nephew with a lot of affection. He had brought his sister Insha in for an audition today. Chen Ziqiang loved his nephew, just like his own biological son. The moment he heard someone was bothering him, he glared furiously, but then his eyes met my smiling peach blossom eyes. Sir, what brings you here? That highly respectful greeting completely shocked Josie, making his eyes widen in disbelief. Chen Ziqiang pushed Josie aside and quickly hurried over to me. Are you here to see me today? Do you need something? I calmly took a sip of my water. I just brought my sister here for an audition at your company. You literally own 50% of the shares in this company. Handling a simple audition is a very trivial matter for you. My gaze held a deeper meaning. I glanced over at Josie. Thanks to his reminder, otherwise I honestly would have forgotten that I even owned shares here. As long as I was working under the Mu Yu family's arrangements, I was fine. I had learned investment from Lu Yu Shuyan since childhood and invested in many ventures. The bosses of the companies I hold shares in all respectfully call me Brother Chen. Brother Chen, what exact role is your sister auditioning for today? I can just tell someone right now to finalize her casting immediately. I stared directly at Josie. My sister prefers to earn things through her own hard work, rather than relying on other people's power. Chen Ziqiang instantly understood the hint. He sharply glared at the nephew, standing right beside him. Do you have some kind of misunderstanding with Brother Chen? Apologize to Brother Chen right now. I kept a polite smile on my face and replied, there is no misunderstanding at all. He simply does not like me. The issue between us is entirely personal and shouldn't be mixed with business. Otherwise, people might wrongly accuse me of abusing my official power. Chen Ziqiang breathed a heavy sigh of relief. Brother Chen is still as incredibly reasonable as always. This nephew of mine is quite spoiled. I will definitely keep his temper in check from now on. Josie just gritted his teeth in anger. A dozen actors who had just auditioned walked out. Yi Zixi was among them. I immediately pulled back my intimidating aura. Ye Zixi smiled brightly at me and said she managed to get a minor role. I politely said goodbye to Chen Ziqiang and walked away. I watched the siblings leave together. I ended up buying 2 outfits for each of my family members as mid-autumn festival gifts. Seeing me casually drop around 10,000 at once made Yi Zixi feel slightly embarrassed. You spent so much money. Mom and Dad will definitely feel awkward accepting these since each piece costs over 1,000, but high quality lasts a very long time. Buying cheap, flimsy clothes is pointless. My personal philosophy on shopping is that your closet should only hold nice clothes you can actually wear. I intentionally bought thousands of dollars worth of clothes just to completely annoy Mu Xuan. He got the news and went absolutely crazy with anger. His sister complained. Mu Chen took Ye Zixi to buy new clothes. I have been his sister for 17 years and he never gave me clothes. Now he goes to the Yi family and spoils that cheap sister. I am going to talk to him right now. Mu Xuan quickly grabbed his phone and car keys. I absolutely have to bring him back today. His supervisor suddenly stepped right in front of him, sweating nervously in sheer panic. What is the point of you going there? You were the one who ordered the Yi family's total bankruptcy. The young master is probably still furious with you. Mu Xuan stopped in his tracks. A deep flash of regret appeared in his eyes. Previously, he had intentionally bankrupted them, just to ensure I wouldn't leave the Mu family. But who could have predicted that even knowing the Yi family was ruined, I would still walk away so firmly? I simply had no trust left in my heart. His reputation within our high society circle was already quite poor. How could a careless, useless young lady who never worked suddenly cause such a massive uproar? 2 years ago, Ye Shiwei actually went ahead and provoked his boyfriend. Mu Xuan was also present at the time and noticed that Ye Shiwei looked exactly like me. He immediately sent someone to investigate, and that was when he finally discovered my true bloodline, proving I was the biological son of the Yi family. I was probably the only one in that cold house he found interesting. He didn't want me to ever leave the MU family, so he bankrupted them. Even if the truth about the real and fake young master came out, he figured that seeing the ruined Yi family would stop me from claiming my roots. But he was also terribly afraid that once everything was exposed, I wouldn't have the freedom to make my own choice. He really couldn't bear to let me go back to the Yi family to suffer. So, after their bankruptcy, he approached me and arrogantly boasted that the Yi family was completely broke. He told me to stay quietly in the Mu family and just be his good little brother, promising the other sister would still pamper me. His true goal was to reveal the harsh truth early, giving me time to mentally prepare before things got worse. He wanted me to use the MU family's resources for my own investments, allowing me to save up enough living expenses in advance so I wouldn't have to live a miserable life later on. But he never expected the secrets to be exposed so incredibly fast. Within just 2 short years, Mu Xuan showed up right at my door. My departure wasn't exactly smooth either. Rather than staying in the Mu family as an adopted son, it was far better for me to leave and carve out my own identity. The only thing that completely exceeded his expectations was that I actually chose to return to the ruined Yi family. I rested my chin on my hand and let out a long, melancholic sigh. Even now, I wasn't entirely sure if my decision was right or wrong. Mu Xuan personally showed up at the door. How exactly did he find out that we were swapped at birth? That exact question has been deeply bothering me lately too. While I was having lunch with Lu Ruyan on Monday afternoon, I actually discussed this strange matter with her. I had already known the truth about my own identity way before then, so when Mu Xuan suddenly showed up at that time, nothing felt wrong to me. But thinking about it carefully, over the past few days, Mu Yawei and Chen Jinjie never gave me much attention or care anyway, so it is impossible that they would suddenly investigate their biological son. And the Yi family was already totally bankrupt by then. And Mu Xuan never even had a chance to meet them, so how could he know about the swap? And where did that paternity test report come from? Lu Jansen also felt things were very strange after hearing this. When I was born, the Mu family was already at the top. They had their own private hospital and exclusive wards. So how exactly did the babies get swapped with the Yi family? Someone must have absolutely done this on purpose. Mu Xuan showed up with the paternity test. If he is indeed the biological son, that is fine, but how did he get his hands on it? The mastermind behind all this has very dark intentions. I really do not care which family I truly belong to, nor do I care about Mu Xuan's background. It is just that if someone is playing a massive game of chess here, I have become a mere pawn being completely used. Right now, I still have no idea what the other party's true motive is, nor am I entirely sure who they are actually targeting. I really don't like the feeling of being used. I'll have someone investigate this secretly, find a chance and get some answers out of Mu Chen. Just then, Lu Ruyan handed me a glass of orange juice. He didn't seem too worried about the whole situation. After all, I was still pretty young back then. Whoever that person was targeting, they definitely weren't aiming at me. Honestly, it didn't mean much to me at all, so there's really no need to overthink it. That's true, but the feeling of being secretly watched is actually pretty creepy. Doing a full, thorough investigation is definitely the safest option we have. I absolutely trust you, Lu Ruyan. Lu Ruyan narrowed his eyes slightly. The young master is speaking to me so politely now. After knowing each other for 17 years, it seems we're becoming like total strangers. I glared at him. Could you maybe tone down the drama just a little? Lu Ruyan faked a broken heart. He used to call me Brother Yan, but now it's just Boss Liu. I pretend punched him in the back. He just laughed it off and didn't mind. Their research institute has gene testing equipment. Take a strand of Mushuan's hair and get it matched. After graduation, I won't need to go abroad, but for early graduation, domestic applications, and all the company work, I am handling it entirely by myself. Why don't you come help me first? Lu Ruyan laughed angrily. I'm not your workhorse. I only invest money and don't do the actual work. What kind of boss are you? When class started, the teacher walked in with textbooks. Mu Chen turned his head toward my seat, looking my way, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. A spark of cunning flashed in his eyes. Someone had picked him up at noon, and now class had started, but he still hadn't returned. Does he have some urgent business? Why don't we just start the class? Hearing Mushuan's sarcastic remarks, Lin Jiajun rolled his eyes. I actually thought this guy had finally learned his lesson. But the moment he got a chance, he threw dirt on me. Lin Jiajun raised his voice. Mu Chen went to discuss a collaboration with Lu Ruyan. Since Boss Liu personally came to pick him up, the teacher really doesn't need to worry about his safety. The teacher nodded in perfect understanding. He opened the textbook and simply started teaching. Mushuan's face instantly turned totally pale. What kind of school is this? They don't even care if students ditch class. Shenghua Academy was filled with the heir of powerful and wealthy families. Although most people would just go home to inherit their family businesses, many also wanted a voice of their own. The teachers were already used to students skipping classes for business meetings. The school was very relaxed about this. After all, giving these students practical experience was the goal, so holding back their development was naturally impossible. If a class was missed, it was missed. As long as they didn't fail at the end of the semester, everything was fine. And Mu Xuan, being completely new, naturally didn't understand this. If he wanted to remove me from my position, he would first have to remove Lu Ruyan. And if he couldn't even remove him, then this wasn't a bad strategy either. By the time I returned to school, the third class of the afternoon had already begun. It was an equestrian class. I went to the locker room to change clothes. I met up with Lin Jiajun at the riding arena. I had just spent hours grabbing a meal with Brother Yan. I shot Mu Chen a deeply meaningful glance. A major life event always ties back to bloodlines and status. Isn't this a major life event? Lin Jiajun completely missed the point. Wait, did he propose to you? Is your relationship finally official? I jokingly glared at him. He and I are just really good friends. Lin Jiajun curled his lips. Friends my foot. Who doesn't know that the two of you secretly arranged a marriage? I rolled my eyes at him. You and Mingxi are the ones truly made for each other. How are we made for each other? I like girls like your sister. What era are we in? Still talking about childhood arranged marriages. Mingxi and I are practically bros. If we actually ended up getting married later, seeing each other every day would probably feel so weird. I stayed quiet and just laughed. You're just obsessed with looks. Mingxi has such a gentle personality. If you actually dated her, you'd definitely find her way too boring. I think Mingxi is absolutely perfect for me, Lin Jiajun said stubbornly. You just relentlessly protect your own people, don't you? He reached out to grab my waist, teasing me playfully. I just burst out laughing and begged for mercy while trying to dodge Lin Jiajun's attack. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted Shen Mingxi walking over. Hurry up and come collect your future husband. Lin Jiajun's ears instantly turned bright red, and he immediately stopped his hands. Shen Mingxi's ears were also red. He lowered his head and rubbed his nose. The engagement between the Lin and Shen families wasn't exactly a secret, but speaking about it so loudly in public still felt incredibly awkward. Suddenly, a heart-piercing scream shattered the calm atmosphere. Everyone immediately looked over. Mu Shushuan was yanking the reins desperately, his face turning completely pale from sheer terror. His expression was totally distorted. The equestrian teacher was galloping right behind him on another horse, desperately looking for a chance to rescue him. Chasing after him, the teacher frantically yelled, "Don't pull the reins so hard. Loosen your body up a bit." He was trying to get Mu Xuan to control the horse himself, but all he could hear was screaming. Mu Xuan couldn't relax at all. From the sheer panic, his palms were sweating profusely and it looked like his heart was about to jump out. I've never seen such a stupid student, Lin Jiajun muttered in sheer disbelief, helplessly twitching his lips. With all these riding classes, how does Mu Shen get this terrified every single time? Shen Mingxi also shook his head and sighed. How did his brain even pass the entrance exam? Aren't you going to help him out? If he falls, his arms will probably dislocate. Why should I care? The teacher went to save him, right? It's none of my business. Then the teacher's voice echoed from a distance, Mu Chen, help quickly. Lin Jiajun and Shen Mingxi watched with pure amusement. I laughed and let out a helpless sigh. I hopped onto a horse and chased right after him. Sometimes getting good grades really isn't a good thing. I helped Mu Xuan get the out-of-control horse under command. Mu Xuan had passed out cold and was rushed to the school doctor. I gently patted the horse that I had raised myself, just to praise it for doing such a genuinely great job. Lin Jiajun strolled over and slung an arm around my shoulder. You showed some serious kindness by saving that young master. Mingxi chuckled softly. He casually remarked, Brother Chen really has no heart. He's just a guy wandering through the world. I pretended to be annoyed, rolling my eyes at the two of them. You two are teaming up to call me completely ruthless now, aren't you? Lin Jiajun forced a totally awkward smile, while Shen Mingxi quickly composed himself. Who told you to take first place in the exams last year and literally show off all your skills on the field? Otherwise, they wouldn't have called you for help in a crisis today. Being too capable is honestly a mistake. If I didn't have some killer moves, that first place probably wouldn't have been mine. It's totally possible that I wouldn't have even survived. Lin Jiajun and Shen Mingxi finally stopped joking around. There really was an incredibly formidable guy in their class, Lu Mingyun. He was my absolute biggest competitor in the entire school. His test scores were always neck and neck with mine in every single exam. I would barely win by just a few points. In the horseback riding exam last semester, Lu Mingyun actually achieved shockingly high marks. If I hadn't carefully analyzed the situation and immediately bumped up the difficulty level, I probably would have barely won the final semester's total score by a single point. And honestly, I might not even be studying at Manhwa this year. This guy Lu Mingyun was genuinely handsome, and highly popular in class too. But I always had this gut feeling that he was utterly demonic. Lin Jiajun suddenly recalled Lu Mingyun's chilling smile and visibly shivered. It wasn't an overtly evil expression on his face by any means, but rather he would always smile gently like a warm spring breeze. Even so, his eyes felt incredibly weird to me. It constantly seemed like he was hiding some malicious intent deep down. It always made people feel uneasy, especially his piercing gaze whenever he looked directly at me. He always kept that gentle smile on his face, but his true feelings were buried dangerously deep. That underlying hostility felt like it was there, but simultaneously invisible. Reading his mind was practically impossible. He nodded in complete agreement. He had spoken to Lu Mingyun a couple of times before, and basically saw him as a smiling tiger. The guy couldn't speak a single word of truth, yet a heavy sense of gloom always radiated from within him. I genuinely started to think about it. I had never actually met Lu Mingyun face-to-face before this. We exclusively competed on the school's academic rankings. I hadn't even bothered to look into his family background or anything like that. Jing I hadn't heard, but Shen Mingxi had the gossip. Word on the street is he isn't from Jingxi. He actually lives with his aunt. She's important, though I don't know her exact name. Nobody else could figure it out either. He's supposedly some wealthy young master. Lin Jiajun looked totally skeptical about his coastal roots. Coming this far to Jingxi to study? Shen Mingxi just shrugged. It's really nothing new for elite prep schools. We have students from other provinces too. Maybe they were sent here specifically for a top-tier education. This Lu Mingyun guy was definitely strange, but honestly, he had nothing to do with me. I didn't even know him. There was no way he was targeting me. I pushed the thought away and told myself to stop overthinking. I hopped on my horse and rode freely across the grassy field. I headed inside to change for my next class. Stepping out of the locker room, I bumped right into Lu Mingyun, the very guy my friends called an absolute menace. He flashed a forced smile. His eyes gleamed, but there was zero genuine warmth behind them. Old rivals never wait around. Here to change, or waiting for me. Lu Mingyun laughed out loud. There are a lot of campus rumors lately. Wu Tongshu is pretty sharp. She shouldn't sacrifice long-term gains for simple friendship. I narrowed my eyes slightly, hiding my reaction as my expression quickly neutralized. If you already know they're just rumors, then why corner me with this nonsense? He pressed. Why did you actually leave the Muka family? I sensed a real flash of danger in his eyes as I stared back. If I said it was to find my relatives, would you even believe me? I raised an eyebrow. Why do you care anyway? Deciding I was totally done entertaining his games, I just walked right past him. Lu Mingyun froze for a second. The smug smile vanished from his face, replaced by an unfiltered sadness in his eyes. I returned to the lounge, sat and sipped my water. That conversation kept looping in my mind. Lin Jiajun and Shen Mingxi were totally right. Mingyun's words seemed perfectly polite, and he kept smiling, but his eyes held a subtle malice. It was a calculated, mysterious hostility that felt genuinely dangerous. The other rich kids were definitely intense too. If Lu Mingyun's creepy vibe was that obvious, he wouldn't be so popular. The only logical explanation was that he hid it incredibly well from everyone else. But around me, his mask slipped. He was even cautious of my inner circle. He clearly hated me, but I just couldn't figure out why. This was our first time actually talking face to face. We had literally zero history. As the main topic of the elite gossip circle, I wouldn't cross paths with him. We never met off campus. He'd been an underdog for 2 years, yet he seemed obsessed with why I left the Mu family, why wise outsiders are so deeply invested in the elite circle's rich family drama. Did he have some grudge against the Mu family? If so, why target me? I decided to drop it for now. The truth would inevitably come to light eventually anyway. Lin Jiajun suddenly hopped onto my desk. Coming to my winery for a drink tonight? I swatted his hand away, straightened my textbooks, and let out an incredibly reluctant sigh. I frowned at him. Could you please care about your image? I glared, but he just tugged my leg. My winery's been open forever, and you never visit. Shen Mingxi rolled his eyes. You're pretty confident, knowing that winery is destined to go bankrupt. Lin Jiajun just laughed it off, smacking Shen Mingxi's arm. Why are you interrupting? You gave me a new bottle before and it completely spoiled. I still need to settle that score with you. Lin Jiajun leaned over Shen Mingxi's desk. Shen defended himself. The stolen inkstone investigation hit a wall. The deal fell through. It wasn't my fault. I'll score you a premium bottle next time, I promise. Still completely riled up, Lin Jiajun lunged at him, threatening to strip off his jacket in front of everyone. Shen Mingxi turned bright red and the two started wrestling. The lounge filled with chaotic energy. I ducked my head, covering my mouth to hide a laugh. They've bickered like this since childhood. Lin Jiajun suddenly noticed that I was cracking up. He reached over and poked my arm. Stop just watching the show. You haven't answered me. I'll even pour you the vintage 82 grape juice. That's basically still wine. You know I wouldn't dare touch alcohol. Was he seriously not terrified of Lu Ruyan's wrath? Everyone knew he was incredibly protective over me. If anything ever threatened my safety, he'd destroy it without hesitation. If Lin Jiajun actually dared to get me drunk, he'd be the very next person wiped off the map. I calmly told them, stop fighting, boys. I'm skipping tonight. Mu Ningsu formally invited me to dinner. Lin Jiajun leaped off the desk like the sky was literally collapsing right above us. His voice spiked in panic. What scheme is the Mu family's eldest daughter pulling now? Is she planning an ambush? Shen Mingxi shot me an intensely worried look, looking at me like I was being deployed to an active war zone. I have a Kevlar vest at home. I'll have someone bring it over so you can wear it tonight. Honestly, acting like I was facing a mortal enemy wasn't an overreaction. They knew I completely despised the two Mu sisters. Having known me for a decade, they were intimately familiar with how toxic those girls were. Mu Yulu used to own a massive dog. Back when she was 17, she intentionally commanded the vicious thing to attack 19-year-old Mu Ningxi's just to prove a petty point. Mu Ningsu brutally killed the dog without a second thought. The entire Mu household erupted into absolute chaos. Our parents relentlessly interrogated them both, but Mu Yulu flatly denied ordering the attack. They ended up pinning the whole mess on me. My parents knew I was innocent, yet they still locked me in my room for a solid month. Seeking revenge against Mu Ningsu, Mu Yulu snuck into the startup where her sister was interning and cut the main power. Critical data was wiped out, causing thousands in damages. And just last night, Mu Ningsu ruthlessly smashed her sister's favorite sports car. Both had severely crossed the line, yet Mu Yulu still falsely claimed that I was the one who cut the power. My parents knew the truth, yet they covered for them. I had just gotten off restriction, only to be locked away for another month. That was the moment I realized I was just a strategic pawn for marriage. No matter how perfectly I behaved, I'd never earned their approval or a single compliment. Instead, I'd only receive endless, unwanted drama. I was constantly forced to shoulder the blame for my sister's toxic mistakes because I meant absolutely nothing to my parents. Through those two brutal incidents, their true, vicious natures became crystal clear. The eldest was utterly ruthless, and the youngest was dangerously reckless. To survive, I had to fight back. When my friends found out, they honestly wondered how I hadn't already been killed by them. Surviving this long felt like a miracle. You're dining alone with her? Shouldn't we alert police? Or at least pack some pepper spray? She's totally unhinged. One wrong word, and she'll literally attack you. Lin Jiajun was pacing with anxiety, terrified for his seemingly defenseless best friend. Who knew what trap awaited me? I shot him a sharp glare. Then escort me. Didn't you promise Lu Ruyan you'd be my personal bodyguard anyway? I couldn't beat Mu Ningxiu in a fight anyway. Everyone knows what happened at that party. She completely lost her temper and taught those troublemakers a brutal lesson. That was the exact reason why father decided to send her away abroad. Do not worry, you two. She will not lay a hand on me. Even though I really despise both of those sisters, I know perfectly well that they would never actually harm me. Lin Jiajun pulled up a chair and sat down right next to me. You cannot be so sure. Whenever you are in real danger, those two sisters will protect you. Everywhere. But when you are safe, they become the biggest threat to you. As for the house arrest, that was just a minor thing. Have you completely forgotten that she forced you to stand as a punishment for half a year? I touched my nose, suddenly entirely at a loss for words. That standing punishment? Honestly, That was not actually Mu's fault. When we were 13, Mu Ningxue took me out, and we suddenly got ambushed by enemies. She did not have her bodyguards with her that day. Obviously, 2 hands just cannot fight off 4. While she was trying to save me, someone violently smashed my leg with a heavy wooden club. Fortunately, my daily exercise saved me from the worst of it. It took half a year of bed rest to finally heal. During those 6 months, Lu Ruyan personally picked me up and dropped me off. She told me later that Mu Ningxue had brutally destroyed every single person who ambushed us that day. She made sure to get my revenge in her own ruthless way. But honestly, just thinking about it still terrifies me. That is exactly why I keep my distance. Her face never shows any emotion, making her impossible to read, but her heart is filled with pure rage. Her methods are absolutely ruthless. I just laughed it off and reassured them both. Look, I have been fighting with them for 17 years. I will be fine. Lin Jiajun took a deep breath, nervously scratched his short hair, and muttered, Lu Ruyan is also if anything happens, call us for help right away. We will rush over immediately and get the police involved. Evening approached, and the final school bell finally rang. I slowly packed my backpack and took a long deep breath. I really did not want to face my eldest sister, but I had 0 options left. Even if I dodged her today, she would find me tomorrow. I cannot hide forever. As soon as I walked out the school gate, I spotted that familiar dark green Mercedes waiting. Shockingly enough, Mu Ningxue had actually stepped out of the car to pick me up herself. Big sister came to get me in person. Wow, I am just so thrilled. I curled my lips into a mock smile and taunted, Where is your precious, cheap brother? She glanced around, immediately spotting someone waiting in a school uniform. She had obviously sent some people ahead to investigate, learning that Yi Zixi usually picks me up after school every single day. But today, he was nowhere to be seen. Gripping my backpack tightly, I asked, Did you not invite me for dinner? I sent him away already. Mu Ningxue's eyes suddenly darkened, flashing with a clear hint of danger. She was extremely protective of him too. Flashing a completely fake smile, I stared right back into her intense eyes, enunciating every single word. I said, I am keeping my guard up around you. We locked eyes in a fierce, silent battle, neither willing to back down. Watching secretly from a distance, Lin Jiajun and Shen Mingxi fully expected a brutal fight to break out any second. We might not even make it to the restaurant before tearing into each other right here. The tension was absolutely suffocating. Finally, Mu Ningxue slightly parted her lips. Just a few exchanged words, and things had already escalated to this miserable point. I genuinely felt we needed to stay on high alert. But before we could even finish arguing about their so-called protection tactics, the ultimate party crasher arrived. He came sprinting toward us in his school uniform, his jacket flapping wildly in the wind. He looked youthful and handsome, flashing an incredibly charming smile. Ever since greeting both of the sisters at that party, 2 whole days had passed without them meeting again. But ultimately, he was her biological brother. Ningxiu showing up to fetch him proved she actually wanted to fix their broken bond, leaving the tense atmosphere between us feeling incredibly awkward. Besides, he absolutely hated this fake sister anyway. Mu Xuan pitched his voice higher, speaking with sickening sweetness, genuinely thinking that acting cute would win her over completely. Big sister, did you come to pick me up? I am your real brother. You have to protect me from now on. He was completely clueless about how twisted the 2 Mu family daughters truly were. I let out a freezing breath, turning my face away, silently feeling a sudden pang of pity, as if Yi Zixi had been tormenting him in the Yi household. Mark my words, you have a rough road ahead. Mu Xuanjuat shot me a sickeningly victorious glare, before turning his attention back to Mu Ningxue. He put on this ridiculous act of being sensible and noble. Even though she practically stole 17 years of my life, I do not blame her. You should not bully her too much either, since both of you clearly still need to talk things out. I will just wait in the car. He reached out and aggressively yanked the back door handle, only to realize it was completely locked. Frustrated, he walked over and tapped the driver's window, but the driver stubbornly refused to even glance in his direction. Fu Xuan spun around, shooting Mu Ningxue a pitiful, heartbroken look. The driver is not opening the door for me. I absolutely could not hold back my laughter. Your precious brother is waiting patiently for you, so I will just excuse myself. I desperately tried to make a run for it. At the last second, Mu Xuan stood there, completely frozen. He stared at me, then back at my Mu Ningxue. He simply could not process that she was actually here just for me. School had just let out, so the front gates were already packed, rapidly drawing an even bigger crowd of nosy spectators. How on earth could he miss such a golden opportunity? With dozens of eyes staring right at him, Mu Xuan simply could not afford to lose face publicly. Forcing a stiff, painful smile, he muttered, So big sister actually invited her to dinner as well? Then let us hurry up and go. If mom finds out we are getting along, she will be thrilled. He was shamelessly using our parents' names to pressure Mu Ningxue. If she refused to play along, the Mu family's reputation would tank, and our parents would definitely scold her. But Mu Ningxue felt absolutely zero attachment to our parents, so she couldn't care less about their anger. She completely ignored Mu Xuan, not even bothering to throw a single glance his way. I just stood my ground confidently, staring fiercely straight into her piercing eyes. Mo Ningxiu slowly narrowed her gaze. Haven't seen you in years. You really have grown extremely clever, haven't you? Big sister, you flatter me. But how can I possibly sit in the next car? Nope, I am definitely not getting in. Let us just happily waste our time standing right here. Do I really have to force you to get inside? I refuse to back down an inch. Let's just see what kind of nightmare he tries to create for me. In the Mew household, he and I aren't the only ones acting like fire and water. The two sisters are basically sworn enemies. They had been viciously fighting since childhood, constantly sabotaging one another and then rapidly shifting the blame. Later on, I figured how to manipulate the younger sister to effectively block the elder one, and then use the elder sister to completely control the younger one. Keeping each other in check was my survival strategy. Mu Ningxiu angrily ground her teeth, letting out a frustrated, defeated sigh. Get in the damn car. I just won another round. Flashing a smug smile, I finally agreed to get into the vehicle. I slowly walked toward the back door. The smart driver took the hint and immediately popped the lock for me. Opening the heavy door, I leaned down and slid gracefully into the seat. Finally, I was securely inside. Right then, she shot Mushu an absolutely freezing, disgusted glare. Every pathetic stray cat and dog really thinks they can climb onto a stage they belong on. They will only dirty my beautiful car. It was painfully obvious who she was talking about. She felt absolute disgust for a brother like Mu Xuan, genuinely believing his mere presence ruined her prestigious reputation. She slid in from the opposite side. I rolled down my window, laughed softly, and warned him. You better practice your horseback riding. If a disaster like today ever repeats itself, I am absolutely not saving you. You ungrateful silent coward is honestly worse than a stray dog, right? The window quickly rolled up and the car aggressively sped away. Mu Xuan furiously stomped his feet in the dust. He never imagined that his eldest sister would show him zero respect in public. She actually took me along but completely abandoned him right there. He was technically the legitimate son of the Mu family. So why was I, someone who wasn't even a real Mu, considered so vital and fiercely protected by Mu Ningxue? Why do I constantly find myself tangled up with them? The surrounding crowd instantly figured out the truth. Even though he was the legitimate young master, his powerful sisters placed absolutely zero value on him. In Mu Ningxue's ruthless eyes, Mu Xuan wasn't even worth a tiny fraction of my value. Regardless of how the parents felt, the massive family fortune would ultimately be inherited by Mu Ningxue anyway. And without her strict approval, his title was just an empty, meaningless joke. He slowly turned his head, glancing over at his daughter Xiao Chen, who had rushed over to help after classes ended. Don't worry, he will be perfectly fine. I know exactly what mother is stressing about. Mom, trust him, Ye Jixi said, her brow furrowed. He promised us he wouldn't go back to the Mu family and endure more suffering. Lin Jiajun came sprinting over with wild excitement. Hello, Auntie. His eyes locked onto Ye Jixi's face, completely mesmerized. How could someone be this stunning? Like a heavenly fairy untouched by mortal food. Shen Mingxi pressed his lips together tightly. His dark eyes narrowed as he deliberately stepped sideways, completely blocking Lin Jiajun's intense stare. Auntie, we are Mu Cheng's friends from school. We heard you run a small business here, so we came over to check it out. My mother laughed warmly and said, Hello everyone. Since you are Xiao Ken's dear friends, I will make you my premium rice balls. She prepared a deluxe version packed with extra ingredients, sliced it perfectly in half, and handed it over. Here, give this a taste. Tell me what you think. Shen Mingxi accepted it politely. Lin Jiajun was already happily munching away. He took a massive bite of the rice ball and asked, Did you roast these spices yourself? Really, this is incredibly delicious. If I ever get the chance, I'd love to come over for a home-cooked meal. He ate with such reckless joy, it instantly made everyone else hungry. My mother's eyes crinkled with pure joy. Whenever you want to drop by, just let me know beforehand. I'll cook up extra dishes for you. You're always welcome here. Seeing my son make such great friends at school, and knowing you're all such wonderful kids means he's truly well-liked. What mother wouldn't be thrilled? She finally felt at ease. Thanks to these two absolute clowns making such a massive scene, several classmates wandered over. That's when they realized this hard-working woman was my real mother. Everyone quickly pitched in to help out. Naturally, crowded street stalls always attract even more customers. Within seconds, it was pure chaos. Yi Jixi jumped in to help, and Lin Jiajun spent the entire time staring at her with total lovesick devotion. Shen Mingxi just rolled his eyes, completely annoyed. In my heart, this guy wasn't ranked much higher anyway.
Whatever.
Falling behind Lu Ruyan was one thing, but now even Ye Jixi had surpassed him. His best friend status was absolutely crumbling. Who knows, if this idiot might ditch our friendship for a pretty face someday. He was just a childhood pal, after all. He needed a solid game plan. Shen Mingxi quietly shifted his stance, blocking the lovesick guy's view of Ye Jixi. Hey, wanna catch a movie together this weekend? A fiery intense gaze followed Ye Jixi, meeting Lin Jiajun's sparkling, hopelessly romantic eyes. You really are incredibly gorgeous, you know. Back at City Number 1 High School, she was secretly crowned the campus beauty. People constantly stared whenever she went shopping, so she was completely used to the attention. But since this loud guy was actually my best friend, she felt genuinely shy.
Thank you.
You two seem to have a really great bond. Lin Jiajun enthusiastically threw a heavy arm around Shen Mingxi's shoulder. Man, if it were legally possible to marry him, I'd rent an 8-seat palanquin and drag him straight to my house. Shen Mingxi's face instantly darkened. Spouting nonsense like that in front of my sister? Aren't you terrified of sending the wrong message? We've known each other for over 10 years, and I swear this idiot's brain is completely hollow sometimes. It's no surprise I'm his only real brother. Yi Jixi, however, actually found his chaotic energy. Wait, you still haven't answered my first question. Movie this weekend, yes or no? Lin Jiajun spun back around, practically buzzing with excitement. Wanna come hang out with us? He figured if he dragged my sister along, he'd get to stare at a gorgeous girl all afternoon. Yi Jixi just gently shook her head though. I've actually got a part-time gig this weekend. You guys go ahead without me. Jiajun instantly deflated. What important business is the young master busy with? Honestly, having just moved back to the I family these past 2 weeks, I had endless weekend hospital visits. This week, Lu Ruyan also returned, so I'd probably need to swing by there too. Yi Jixi had no clue what I was secretly working on, but after spending time together lately, she definitely realized I was highly capable. Plus, even though I didn't brag about the Miu family anymore, I still controlled several hidden businesses. I was far from a normal high school kid, and since it was my private business, she never pressed for details. Alright, well, anytime you're free, come hang out at our place. You're always welcome. Once the rice balls sold out, we packed up the stall. Yi Feng drove over to pick us up, and Shen Mingxi helped load the food cart into the trunk. The Ming family's luxury car had been idling by the curb forever. He then forcefully dragged Lin Jiajun into his ride, scheming to take him home so he could help fix up a few things. Shen Mingxi let out a heavy defeated sigh. Honestly, he was exactly like Lu Ruyan. They were both basically just convenient tools for their childhood besties. Still, this whole dynamic felt strangely different somehow. As night took over, my cold, expressionless face reflected in the car window. We were at this same restaurant again. Since the Mu family rarely paid her any attention, she probably escaped here all the time. That's why she bought the place, always dragging me along for dinners. But human patience has a hard limit. Eat anywhere too often, and it gets insanely boring. Just like how I eventually grew exhausted from her freezing attitude. I cut straight to the chase. What's the real agenda behind dragging me out to dinner? You tracked me down yesterday, drove in circles for absolutely nothing, and now you've cornered me at this fancy restaurant. Clearly, this wasn't going to be a quick chat. Mu Ningsu elegantly lifted her glass, taking a slow sip of red wine. Are they actually treating you well? She did all this just to ask me that? Honestly, playing house with them was barely different from acting as the Mu family's young master. Mu Ning's face instantly shifted, and she slammed her glass down. She absolutely couldn't deny the truth of my response. She already knew my ultimate endgame was escaping the Mu family the second I grew up. Over the past 2 years, she had been secretly investing so I'd have extra assets stacked up to protect myself. She never imagined I'd actually return to the Yi family to tolerate those toxic people. Honestly, if I just managed my current hidden businesses with a bit more focus, they alone could comfortably fund the rest of my entire life. Yet here I was, actively burning my time and valuable resources to help Yi Jia. I quietly stared out the window at the glowing city lights. For the first time ever, my heart felt a strange, profound peace, and honestly, that was enough.